What would Game of Thrones look like if it unfolded as an animated comic book? Welcome back to episode 2 of our journey through A Song of Ice and Fire. In this series, we are going through all the chapters of A Game of Thrones as a fully animated comic book experience. Blending stunning artwork from talented artists, official comic panels, and vertical footage from the HBO series to create something entirely new. Last time, we stepped into the cold of the prologue and the weight of Bran's fall. Now, the political wheels begin to turn. The Starks, the Lannisters, and the Crown itself start moving into position, and the game truly begins. As we continue through the next chapters, you won't just see the story unfold panel by panel. You'll also get a clear breakdown of how the books and the show diverge. This isn't just a retelling, it's a side-by-side evolution of George R.R. Martin's world. If you're enjoying this animated journey through Westeros, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next chapter. And now, let's continue. Tyrion 1. Somewhere in the great stone maze of Winterfell, a wolf howled. The sound hung over the castle like a flag of mourning. Tyrion Lannister looked up from his books and shivered. Though the library was snug and warm, something about the howling of a wolf took a man right out of his here and now and left him in a dark forest of the mind, running naked before the pack. When the direwolf howled again, Tyrion shut the heavy leather-bound cover on the book he was reading. 100-year-old discourse on the changing of the seasons by a long-dead maester. He covered a yawn with the back of his hand. His reading lamp was flickering, its oil all but gone. As dawn light leaked through the high windows, he had been at it all night, but that was nothing new. Tyrion Lannister was not much a one for sleeping. His legs were stiff and sore as he eased down off the bench. He massaged some life back into them and limped heavily to the table where the Septon was snoring softly, his head pillowed on an open book in front of him. Tyrion glanced at the title. A Life of the Grand Maester Althomuel. No wonder. Chael, he said softly. The young man jerked up, blinking, confused, the crystal of his order swinging wildly on its silver chain. I'm off to break my fast. See that you return the books to the shelves. Be gentle with the Valyrian scrolls. The parchment is very dry. Armidion's Engines of War is quite rare, and yours is the only complete copy I've ever seen. Chael gaped at him, still half asleep. Patiently, Tyrion repeated his instructions, then clapped the Septon on the shoulder and left him to his task. Outside, Tyrion swallowed a lungful of the cold morning air and began his laborious descent of the steep stone steps that corkscrewed around the exterior of the library tower. It was slow going. The steps were cut high and narrow, while his legs were short and twisted. The rising sun had not yet cleared the walls of Winterfell, but the men were already hard at it in the yard below. Sandor Clegane's rasping voice drifted up to him. The boy is a long time dying. I wish you would be quicker about it. Tyrion glanced down and saw the hound standing with young Joffrey as squires swarmed around them. At least he dies quietly, the prince replied. It's the wolf that makes the noise. I could scarce sleep last night. Clegane cast a long shadow across the hard-packed earth as his squire lowered the black helm over his head. I could silence the creature, if it please you, he said through his open visor. His boy placed a longsword in his hand. He tested the weight of it, slicing at the cold morning air. Behind him, the yard rang to the clangor of steel on steel. The notion seemed to delight the prince. Send a dog to kill a dog, he exclaimed. Winterfell is so infested with wolves, the Starks would never miss one. Tyrion hopped off the last step onto the yard. I beg to differ, nephew, he said. The Starks can count past 6, unlike some princes I might name. Joffrey had the grace at least to blush. A voice from nowhere, Sandor said. He peered through his helm, looking this way and that. Spirits of the air. The prince laughed. As he always laughed when his bodyguard did this murmur's farce. Tyrion was used to it. Down here. The tall man peered down at the ground and pretended to notice him. "The little Lord Tyrion," he said. "My pardons, I did not see you standing there." "I'm in no mood for your insolence today." Tyrion turned to his nephew. "Joffrey, it is past time you called on Lord Eddard and his lady to offer them your comfort." Joffrey looked as petulant as only a boy prince can look. "What good will my comfort do them?" "None," Tyrion said. "Yet it is expected of you. Your absence has been noted." "The Stark boy is nothing to me," Joffrey said. "I cannot abide the wailing of women." Tyrion Lannister reached up and slapped his nephew hard across the face. The boy's cheek began to redden. "One word," Tyrion said, "and I will hit you again." "I'm going to tell Mother," Joffrey exclaimed. Tyrion hit him again. Now both cheeks flamed. "You tell your mother," Tyrion told him. "But first, you get yourself to Lord and Lady Stark, and you fall to your knees in front of them, and you tell them how very sorry you are, and that you are in service if they are in the slightest thing that you can do for them, or theirs in this desperate hour, and that all your prayers go with them. Do you understand? Do you?" The boy looked as though he was going to cry. Instead, he managed a weak nod. Then he turned and fled headlong from the yard, holding his cheek. Tyrion watched him run. A shadow fell across his face. He turned to find Clegane looming overhead like a cliff. His suit dark armor seemed to blot out the sun. He had lowered the visor on his helm. It was fashioned in the likeness of a snarling black hound, fearsome to behold. But Tyrion had always thought it a great improvement over Clegane's hideously burnt face. "The prince will remember that, little lord," the hound warned him. The helm turned his laugh into a hollow rumble. "I pray he does," Tyrion Lannister replied. "If he forgets, be a good dog and remind him." He glanced around the courtyard. "Do you know where I might find my brother?" "Breaking fast with the queen." "Ah," Tyrion said. He gave Sandor Clegane a perfunctory nod and walked away as briskly as his stunted legs would carry him, whistling. He pitied the first knight to try the hound today. The man did have a temper. A cold, cheerless meal had been laid out in the morning room of the guest house. Jaime sat at the table with Cersei and the children, talking in low, hushed voices. "Is Robert still abed?" Tyrion asked as he seated himself uninvited at the table. His sister peered at him with the same expression of faint distaste she had worn since the day he was born. "The king has not slept at all," she told him. "He is with Lord Eddard. He has taken their sorrow deeply to heart." "He has a large heart, our Robert," Jaime said with a lazy smile. There was very little that Jaime took seriously. Tyrion knew that about his brother, and forgave it. During all the terrible long years of his childhood, only Jaime had ever shown him the smallest measure of affection or respect, and for that Tyrion was willing to forgive him most anything. A servant approached. "Bread," Tyrion told him, "and 2 of those little fish, and a mug of that good dark beer to wash them down. Oh, and some bacon. Burn it until it turns black." The man bowed and moved off. Tyrion turned back to his siblings, twins, male and female. They looked very much the part this morning. Both had chosen a deep green that matched their eyes. Their blonde curls were all a fashionable tumble, and gold ornaments shone at wrists and fingers and throats. Tyrion wondered what it would be like to have a twin, and decided that he would rather not know. Bad enough to face himself in a looking glass every day. Another him was a thought too dreadful to contemplate. Prince Tommen spoke up. "Do you have news of Bran, uncle?" "I stopped by the sick room last night," Tyrion announced. There was no change. The maesters thought that a hopeful sign. "I don't want Brandon to die," Tommen said timorously. He was a sweet boy, not like his brother, but then Jaime and Tyrion were somewhat less than peas in a pod themselves. "Lord Eddard had a brother named Brandon as well," Jaime mused. "One of the hostages murdered by Targaryen. It seems to be an unlucky name." "Oh, not so unlucky as all that, surely," Tyrion said. The servant brought his plate. He ripped off a chunk of black bread. Cersei was studying him warily. "What do you mean?" Tyrion gave her a crooked smile. "Why, only that Tommen may get his wish. The maester thinks that the boy may yet live." He took a sip of beer. Marcella gave a happy gasp and Tommen smiled nervously. But it was not the children Tyrion was watching. The glance that passed between Jaime and Cersei lasted no more than a second, but he did not miss it. Then his sister dropped her gaze to the table. That is no mercy. These northern gods are cruel to let the child linger in such pain. What were the maester's words? Jaime asked. He thinks that if the boy were going to die, he would have done so already. It has been 4 days with no change. Will Bran get better, uncle? Little Marcella asked. She had all her mother's beauty and none of her nature. The fall shattered his legs as well. They keep him alive with honey and water, or he would starve to death. Perhaps if he wakes, he'll be able to eat real food, but he will never walk again. If he wakes, Cersei repeated. Is that likely? The gods only know, Tyrion told her. The maester only hopes. He chewed some more bread. I would swear that wolf of his is keeping the boy alive. The creature is outside his window day and night howling. Every time they chase it away, it returns. The maester said that they closed the windows once to shut out the noise, and Bran seemed to weaken. When they opened it again, his heart beat stronger. The queen shuddered. There is something unnatural about those animals, she said. They are dangerous. I will not have any of them coming south with us. Jaime said, You'll have a hard time stopping them, sister. They follow those girls everywhere. Tyrion started on his fish. Are you leaving soon then? Not near soon enough, Cersei said. Then she frowned. Are we leaving? She echoed. What about you? Gods, don't tell me you are staying here. Tyrion shrugged. Benjen Stark is returning to the Night's Watch with his brother's bastard. I have a mind to go with them and see this wall we have heard so much of. Jaime smiled. I hope you're not thinking of taking the black on us, sweet brother. Tyrion laughed. What, me, celibate? The whores would go begging from dawn to Castle Rock. No, I just want to stand on top of the wall and piss off the edge of the world. Cersei stood abruptly. The children don't need to hear this filth. Tommen, Marcella, come. She strode briskly from the morning room, her train and her pups trailing behind her. Jaime Lannister regarded his brother thoughtfully with those green eyes. Stark will never consent to leave Winterfell with his son lingering in the shadow of death. He will, if Robert commands it, Tyrion said. And Robert will command it. There is nothing Lord Eddard can do for the boy in any case. He could end his torment, Jaime said. I would, if it were my son. It would be a mercy. I advise against putting that suggestion to Lord Eddard, sweet brother, Tyrion said. He would not take it kindly. Even if the boy does live, he'll be a cripple. Worse than a cripple, a grotesque. Give me a good, clean death. Tyrion replied with a shrug that accented the twists of his shoulders. Speaking for the grotesques, he said, I beg to differ. Death is so terribly final, while life is so full of possibilities. Jaime smiled. You are a perverse little imp, aren't you? Oh yes, Tyrion admitted. I hope the boy does wake. I'd be most interested to hear what he might have to say. His brother's smile curled like sour milk. Tyrion, my sweet brother, he said darkly. There are times when you give me cause to wonder whose side you are on. Tyrion's mouth was full of bread and fish. He took a swallow of strong black beer to wash it all down, and grinned up wolfishly at Jaime. Why, Jaime, my sweet brother, he said, you wound me. You know how much I love my family. And this is where Tyrion I, A Game of Thrones ends. Now, the line where Jaime says he wonders which side Tyrion is on feels like it might have been left over from George's original 13 chapters where Jaime was a deplorable villain and would kill his own children, blame the murders on Tyrion, and then take the throne, despite Tyrion proving himself loyal to Jaime by sacking Winterfell. Now, this chapter is used by Tyrion in A Storm of Swords to wrongly deduce that Joffrey sent the catspaw to kill Bran. He remembered a cold morning when he'd climbed down the steep exterior steps from Winterfell's library to find Prince Joffrey jesting with the Hound about killing wolves. Send a dog to kill a wolf, he said, but the interaction actually went like this. Sandor Clegane's rasping voice drifted up to him. The boy is a long time dying. I wish he would be quicker about it. At least he dies quietly, the prince replied. It's the wolf that makes the noise. I could scarce sleep last night. Clegane cast a long shadow across the hard-packed earth. I could silence the creature, if it please you, he said through his open visor. The notion seemed to delight the prince. Send a dog to kill a dog, he exclaimed. Winterfell is so infested with wolves, the Starks would never miss one. See, Tyrion is misremembering here. Joffrey never wanted to kill Bran, he wanted to kill the wolf. Now, some theories think it is probably Cersei, Littlefinger, or Mance Rayder who sent the cat's paw. Personally, we think it was Mance Rayder, since the cat's paw was paid with 90 pieces of silver, and Mance travelled to Winterfell to see the king with a lute and a bag of silver. Sending the cat's paw is also an ingenious way to get the Starks and Lannisters warring while Mance begins his invasion south. Robb says, he had 90 silver stags in a leather bag, while Mance tells Jon in A Storm of Swords that, I took a lute and a bag of silver, scaled the ice near Long Barrow. So, the only real difference between the HBO TV show and book. In the book, Tyrion does not sleep in the dog pen. He spends the entire night at the library without sleep. And that's it for this chapter. Jon II. As Jon went up the stairs slowly, he wondered if this would be the last time he ever did that. Ghost was quietly climbing beside him. Though the yard was filled with noise and snowy chaos, inside the thick walls the castle was quiet, more so than Jon would have liked. At last he reached the landing, but was too afraid to continue. Ghost poked his hand with his muzzle, and that gave him the courage he needed. Straightening his back, Jon entered the room. He found Lady Stark in there, next to the bed. She never left. Sat there all day and all night long, for weeks now. She even had her food taken to her here, and chamber pots and a bed so she could sleep, though she barely ever did. Lady Stark fed Bran herself with a mixture of honey and herbs and water to keep the boy alive. She never left, and so Jon never visited. Until now, when he knew there might not be another chance. Yet Jon was just staring now, too afraid to speak or even move. Through the opened window, the howl of a wolf drifted in. Ghost lifted his head to listen. Lady Stark finally noticed the boy. For a moment, it seemed like she didn't recognize Jon. Then she blinked. "What are you doing here?" she asked in a voice that was flat and emotionless. "I came to see Bran," Jon said, "to say goodbye." Lady Stark looked at him indifferently, her auburn hair tangled. Jon thought she looked much older than usual. "You've said it, now go away." Though he wanted to run, Jon took a heavy step towards the bed, knowing that he might never see his brother again. "Please," he said. Lady Stark looked at him coldly. "I told you to leave," she said. "We don't want you here." Long ago, this would have been enough to make him flee, to make him cry even. Now, it made him angry. He was soon to be a brother of the Night's Watch, the men who face things much worse than Catelyn Stark. "He's my brother," he said. "Shall I call the guards?" "Call them," Jon said, defiant. "You can't stop me from seeing him." Though keeping his distance from the woman, Jon crossed the room and looked down at Bran. Lady Stark was holding the boy's hand. Bran has changed. Pale, sallow skin now stretched over bones. He lost a lot of weight. His limbs looked like sticks and his legs bent every which way under the blanket, making Jon nauseous. Though his sunken eyes were open, Bran saw nothing. The fall somehow made him smaller. He looked like a leaf ready to be carried to the grave by the first strong wind. Still, under his broken ribs, Bran's chest rose with every dying breath. "Bran," Jon said, "I'm sorry I didn't come before. I was afraid." Tears were rolling down his face, but Jon didn't care. "Don't die, Bran. Please. We're all waiting for you to wake up. Me and Robb and the girls, everyone." Catelyn was watching without interrupting, and Jon took that as acceptance of some sort. Outside, there was another howl. It came from the direwolf Bran never had time to name. "I have to go now," Jon said. "Uncle Benjen is waiting. I'm to go north to the wall. We have to leave today, before the snow comes. Bran had been excited for the upcoming journey too. Jon felt his heart breaking because of the idea of leaving his brother behind, broken, barely alive. He wiped his tears away and, leaning down, kissed the boy. "I wanted him to stay here with me," Lady Stark said softly. Jon looked at her carefully, but the woman didn't meet his eyes. She was pretending he wasn't there, even now when talking to him. "I prayed for it," she said dully. "He was my special boy. I went to the Sept and prayed 7 times to the 7 faces of the god that Ned would change his mind and leave him here with me. Sometimes prayers are answered." Jon wasn't sure what to say. "It wasn't your fault," he managed, after a moment of silence. She finally looked at him, her eyes full of mire. "I need none of your absolution, bastard." Jon looked away from her. Catelyn was holding one of Bran's hands, and now he took the other, squeezing it lightly. The boy's bones were fragile. "Goodbye," he said. He was already at the door when he heard Lady Stark speak. "Jon," she said. The young man would have kept going, but for the name. She never called him by his name. Jon turned around, finding Lady Stark looking at him as if she never saw him before. "Yes," he said. "It should have been you," she told him. Then she turned back to Bran and started to cry. Jon had never seen Lady Stark cry before. The walk down to the yard felt long. Noise and confusion greeted Jon outside. The big journey was ahead, with horses being saddled and wagons packed. Snow covered the ground and the people were in a hurry to leave before it got worse. Robb was shouting commands left and right. Jon thought he looked taller, as if his mother's decline made him stronger. His wolf, Greywind, was beside him. "Uncle Benjen is looking for you," he told Jon. "He wanted to be gone an hour ago." "I know," Jon said. "Soon." He looked around at all the noise and confusion. "Leaving is harder than I thought." "For me too," Robb said. The snow in his hair was melting slowly. "Did you see him?" Jon nodded, afraid his voice would break if he said anything. "He's not going to die," Robb said. "I know it." "You Starks are hard to kill," Jon agreed. He felt his voice was tired. Seeing Bran took a lot out of him. Robb could tell he was upset too. "My mother, she was very kind," Jon told him. Robb was relieved. "Good," he smiled. "The next time I see you, you'll be all in black." Jon forced a smile. "It was always my color. How long do you think it will be?" "Soon enough," Robb promised. He pulled Jon into a fierce embrace. "Farewell, Snow." Jon hugged him back. "And you, Stark. Take care of Bran." "I will." At last, they let each other go, awkwardly. "Uncle Benjen said to send you to the stables if I saw you," Robb finally said. "I have one more farewell to make," Jon told him. "Then I haven't seen you," Robb replied. Jon left his half-brother in the gathering snow, surrounded by people and the loud preparations. His next stop was the armory, where he picked up a package. He then made his way to the covered bridge across the keep. Jon found Arya in her room, with her wolf Nymeria packing a large ironwood chest bigger than herself. The girl only had to point for the direwolf to bound across the room and fetch whatever she wanted. But when Nymeria spotted Ghost, she sat and whined softly. Arya looked behind her back and, seeing Jon, leapt to her feet. She wrapped her twig-like arms around Jon's neck in a hug. "I was afraid you were gone," she said, her voice breaking a little. "They wouldn't let me out to say goodbye." "What did you do now?" Jon asked, amused. Arya drew back so she could look at him. "Nothing. I was all packed and everything." She pointed at the chest almost full, then the clothes still scattered around the room. "Septa Mordain says I have to do it all over. My things weren't properly folded," she says. "A proper southern lady doesn't just throw her clothes inside her chest like old rags," she says. "Is that what you did, little sister?" "Well, they're going to get all messed up anyway," she said. "Who cares how they're folded?" "Septa Mordain," Jon told her. "I don't think she'd like Nymeria helping either." The she-wolf looked at him quietly with her golden eyes. "It's just as well. I have something for you to take with you, and it has to be packed very carefully." Her face lit up. "A present?" "You could call it that." "Close the door." Carefully, even in her excitement, Arya checked the hall. "Nymeria, here, guard." She left the direwolf in front of the door. Jon pulled out the wrapped package as she returned. Arya's dark eyes, so similar to his own, went wide. "A sword," she said, in a small voice. The scabbard was grey and soft. Jon drew the sword slowly, so the girl could appreciate the bluish sheen on the blade. "This is no toy," he said. "Be careful you don't cut yourself. The edges are sharp enough to shave with." "Girls don't shave," Arya said. "Maybe they should. Have you ever seen the Scepter's legs?" Arya giggled. "It's so skinny." "So are you," Jon told her. "I had Mikken made this special. The Bravos use swords like this in Pentos and Mir and the other free cities. It won't hack a man's head off, but it can poke him full of holes if you're fast enough." "I can be fast," Arya said. "You'll have to work at it every day." He gave the sword to her, showing the proper way to hold it, then stepped back. "How does it feel? Do you like the balance?" "I think so," Arya said. "First lesson," said Jon. "Stick them with the pointy end." Arya smacked him on the arm with the flat side. It stung, but Jon was still grinning widely. "I know which end to use," Arya said. Then an idea made her frown. "Septa Mordane will take it away from me." "Not if she doesn't know you have it," Jon said. "Who will I practice with?" "You'll find someone," Jon promised her. "King's Landing is a true city, 1,000 times the size of Winterfell. Until you find a partner, watch how they fight in the yard. Run and ride, make yourself strong, and whatever you do." She knew what was coming, and they finished the sentence together. "Don't tell Sansa." Jon tousled her hair. "I will miss you, little sister." Suddenly, Arya was on the verge of tears. "I wish you were coming with us." "Different roads sometimes lead to the same castle. Who knows?" He was feeling better now, keeping sadness in bay. "I better go. I'll spend my first year on the wall emptying chamber pots if I keep Uncle Benjen waiting any longer." Arya moved to hug him. "Put down the sword first," Jon warned her, laughing. She put the sword down carefully, almost shyly, then went and covered Jon's face with kisses. When Jon turned back one last time, already at the door, the girl was once again holding the sword, trying its balance. "I almost forgot," he told her. "All the best swords have names." "Like ice," she said. She looked at the blade. "Does this have a name?" "Oh, tell me." "Can't you guess?" Jon teased. "Your favorite thing." Arya seemed puzzled for a moment, then understanding dawned on her face, and they said it out together again. "Needle." Remembering his sister's laughter warmed him in the coldest hours of his ride north. This is where Jon II, A Game of Thrones ends. Now, this chapter shapes the psychology behind Jon Snow as a character through his interactions with Arya, Catelyn, Robb, and Bran. We also get some potential foreshadowing when Jon tells Arya, "Different roads sometimes lead to the same castle." If Jon does come back to life, then he'll definitely meet Arya again, which will be tragic because neither of them will be the same person that they were when they last saw each other in this chapter. The next person probably most responsible for influencing the Jon story is Catelyn, who is responsible for sending Jon to the wall and the person Jon thinks about more than his own Lord Father when it comes time to accept Stannis' offer to become a Stark. "I could be the Lord of Winterfell, my father's heir." It was not Lord Eddard's face he saw floating before him though. It was Lady Catelyn's, with her deep blue eyes and hard cold mouth. She was looking at him the way she used to look at him at Winterfell, whenever he had bested Robb at swords or sums or most anything. "Who are you?" That look had always seemed to say. "This is not your place. Why are you here?" Ironically, Catelyn might be more responsible for making Jon honor-obsessed than Ned, since we've always interpreted Jon's obsession with honor as having more to do with proving Catelyn wrong than about getting Ned's approval, since Jon thinks about his bastardy all the time, and the person most responsible for reminding Jon of that would have been Catelyn, not Ned or any of his half-siblings. So, we propose, if Jon is the saber of Westeros, it's because of the deep psychological trauma instilled in him by Catelyn through emotional neglect and a desire to prove her wrong for thinking less of him because he was a bastard. The next most impactful relationship is probably Robb, since Jon's closeness with Robb is interesting because they are brotherly, but Jon's entire character comes from living in Robb's shadow, and they both kind of know it without ever acknowledging it. "I'm Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight," Jon would call out, and Robb would shout back, "Well, I'm Florian the Fool," or Robb would say, "I'm the Young Dragon," and Jon would reply, "I'm Sir Raymond Redwine." The morning he called it first, "I'm Lord of Winterfell," he cried, as he had 100 times before. Only this time Robb had answered, "You can't be Lord of Winterfell, you're bastard born. My lady mother says you can't ever be the Lord of Winterfell." Meanwhile, Jon's relationship with Bran, as shown in this chapter, is so pure and innocent that it would be tragic for Jon to find out that Bran tried to stop the Long Night by first building the wall as Bran the Builder, then by sending visions to Aerys Targaryen that only resulted in him becoming the Mad King, before finally traveling all the way back to when the others first appeared, only to be trapped and turned into an other himself, giving the others their power to warg unanimated corpses. So, if Jon has to kill the Night's King, he has to kill his little brother, and this chapter is the last memory Jon has of him. Some of the differences between the HBO TV show and book are: the TV series has 3 additional scenes. The first shows the making of Needle and a conversation between Jaime and Jon, where Jaime ridicules Jon for planning to join the Night's Watch. The second is Cersei visiting Bran's bedroom and speaking to Catelyn about her first child. In the book, Cersei tells Ned in Eddard XII that she never gave birth to any of Robert's children and had an abortion when pregnant with one. Robert was unaware of both the pregnancy and the abortion. In the show, Catelyn is hostile towards Jon when he visits Bran, but not as hostile as she was in the book. Also, Ned appears and Catelyn guilts Ned for leaving, when in the books it was her pushing for Ned to go to King's Landing and investigate Jon Arryn's murder for the sake of her sister Lysa and her son. The third and final additional scene is Ned and Jon's goodbye, where Jon asks about his mother and Ned replies that the next time they see each other, they'll talk about his mother. That's it for this chapter. Eddard II. Lord Eddard was awakened before dawn to see a still grey world. Once Alan shook him awake, Ned stumbled outside, still hazy from sleep, to find the king already on his horse. King Robert was dressed up against the cold, and his fur cloak made him look like a riding bear. "Up, Stark," he roared. "Up, up! We have matters of state to discuss." "By all means," Ned said. "Come inside, your grace." Alan opened the tent's flap for the king. "No, no, no," Robert said. His breath was visible in the cold morning air. "The camp is full of ears. Besides, I want to ride out and taste this country of yours." 2 knights, Sir Boris and Sir Meryn, were waiting beside the king, accompanied by a dozen guards. Knowing he had no other choice, Ned rubbed his eyes, dressed, and mounted his own horse. King Robert urged his huge black mane forward, and Ned tried to keep his pace. He spoke a question as they rode, but the wind made any conversation impossible. Learning his lesson, Ned rode in silence, following Robert. Soon they left the road behind 4 foggy fields, and the guards fell behind, so they couldn't hear them, but the king was still galloping. Atop a low ridge at last, Robert slowed. The guards and the knights were miles behind by then. The king was flushed from the exercise as Eddard stopped next to him. "Gods," he swore, laughing. "It feels good to get out and ride the way a man was meant to ride. I swear, Ned, this creeping along is enough to drive a man mad." He had never been a patient man, Robert Baratheon. "That damnable wheelhouse, the way it creaks and groans. climbing every bump in the road as if it were a mountain. I promise you, if that wretched thing breaks another axle, I'm going to burn it, and Cersei can walk." Ned laughed. "I will gladly light the torch for you." "Good man." The king's hand fell on Ned's shoulder. "I've half a mind to leave them all behind and just keep going." Ned smiled at him. "I do believe you mean it." "I do," the king said. "What do you say, Ned? Just you and me, two vagabond knights on the King's Road, our swords at our sides, and the gods know what in front of us, and maybe a farmer's daughter or a tavern wench to warm our beds tonight." "Would that we could," Ned said, "but we have duties now, my liege, to the realm, to our children, I to my lady wife, and you to your queen. We are not the boys we were." "You were never the boy we were," Robert grumbled. "More's the pity. And yet, there was that one time. What was her name, that common girl of yours? Becca. No, she was one of mine, gods love her. Black hair and these sweet big eyes. You could drown in them. Yours was... Alina? No, you told me once. Was it Meryl? You know the one I mean. Your bastard's mother." "Her name was Wyla," Ned replied coldly, "and I would sooner not speak of her." "Wyla, yes," the king grinned. "She must have been a rare wench if she could make Lord Eddard Stark forget his honor, even for an hour. You never told me what she looked like." Ned was now angry. "Nor will I. Leave it be, Robert. For the love you say you bear me, I dishonored myself and I dishonored Catelyn in the sight of gods and men." "Gods have mercy. You scarcely knew Catelyn." "I had taken her to wife. She was carrying my child." "You are too hard on yourself, Ned. You always were. Damn it, no woman wants Baelor the Blessed in her bed." He slapped a hand on his knee. "Well, I'll not press you if you feel so strong about it. Though, I swear, at times you're so prickly, you want to take the hedgehog as your sigil." The emerging sun shot its darts through the mist, revealing the flat plains in front of them, peppered with long, rounded hillocks. Ned brought Robert's attention to them. "The barrows of the first men." Robert frowned. "Have we ridden onto a graveyard?" "There are barrows everywhere in the north, your grace," Ned told him. "This land is old." "And cold," Robert murmured, tightening his cloak around his vast body. "The guards have stopped well behind them." "Well, I did not bring you out here to talk of graves or bicker about your bastard. There was a rider in the night, from Lord Varys in King's Landing. Here." Robert pulled a piece of paper and handed it to Ned. Varys, Ned knew, was a eunuch and a master of gossip. He was loyal to the king now, but he was also loyal to Aerys Targaryen. Ned opened the scroll, thinking he will read about Lysa's accusations, but the letter had nothing to do with her. "What is the source for this information?" "Do you remember Sir Jorah Mormont?" "Would that I might forget him," Ned said bluntly. The Mormonts were an old house, residing in Bear Island, a cold and distant place. Sir Jorah, the head of the family, tried to make money by selling poachers to slavery, and Ned, whose bannermen the Mormonts were at the time, thought this to be dishonorable. He went to Bear Island, but Sir Jorah was already gone. The knight took a ship and left the Seven Kingdoms. For 5 years he evaded the king's justice. Sir Jorah is now in Pentos, anxious to earn a royal pardon that would allow him to return from exile, Robert explained. Lord Varys makes good use of him, so the slaver has become a spy, Ned said with distaste. He gave the letter back. I would rather he becomes a corpse. Varys tells me that spies are more useful than corpses, Robert said. Jorah aside, what do you make of his report? Daenerys Targaryen has wed some Dothraki horse lord. What of it? Shall we send her a wedding gift? The king frowned. A knife, perhaps. A good sharp one, and a bold man to wield it. Lord Eddard didn't pretend to be surprised. He knew Robert's hatred towards Targaryens well enough. Back in the day, when Tywin Lannister brought the corpses of Rhaegar's wife and children, Ned deemed it murder. Robert, however, thought them to be casualties of war. When Eddard objected, saying the prince and princess were only children, Robert, as the new king, said, "I see no babes, only dragon spawn." Even Jon Arryn, mentor to both, was unable to reconcile the men back then. Ned left that day to finish his battles alone, and only after Lyanna's death was he and Robert brought back together, joined once again by shared grief. This time, Ned kept himself calm. "Your Grace, the girl is scarcely more than a child. You are no Tywin Lannister to slaughter innocents." According to the tales, Prince Rhaegar's daughter was screaming as the soldiers dragged her out from under her bed, and the boy, merely a newborn, was killed by having his head bashed into a wall in front of his mother. "And how long will this one remain an innocent?" Robert's lip pursed in anger. "This child will soon enough spread her legs and start breeding more dragon spawn to plague me." "Nonetheless," Ned said, "the murder of children..." "Unspeakable," the king roared. "What Aerys did to your brother, Brandon, was unspeakable. The way your lord father died, that was unspeakable. And Rhaegar, how many times do you think he sister? How many hundreds of times?" Robert's anger was so loud now that his horse seemed nervous. He calmed the animal before pointing at Ned. "I will kill every Targaryen I can get my hands on until they are as dead as their dragons, and then I will piss on their graves." Ned knew that objecting would be useless. Years have gone by, and Robert's fury against the Targaryens never lessened, so nothing he could say now would change the king's mind. "You can't get your hands on this one, can you?" he said quietly. Robert had a bitter expression on his face. "No, gods be cursed. Some poxy-ridden Pentoshi cheesemonger had her brother and her walled up in his estate with pointy-hatted eunuchs all around them, and now he's handed them over to the Dothraki. I should have had them both killed years ago when it was easy to get at them, but Jon was as bad as you. More fool I listened to him." Jon Arryn was a wise man and a good hand. Robert snorted. His anger was now seeping away. "This Khal Drogo is said to have 100,000 men in his horde. What would Jon say to that?" "He would say that even 1,000,000 Dothraki are no threat to the realm, so long as they remain on the other side of the narrow sea," Ned replied calmly. "The barbarians have no ships. They hate and fear the open sea." Robert shifted uncomfortably, now looking nervous himself. "Perhaps. There are ships to be had in the free cities, though. I will tell you, Ned, I do not like this marriage. There are still those in the Seven Kingdoms who call me usurper. Do you forget how many houses fought for Targaryen in the war? They bide their time now, but give them half a chance, they will murder me in my bed, and my sons with me. If the beggar king crosses with a Dothraki horde at his back, the traitors will join him." "He will not cross," Ned promised. "And if by some mischance he does, we will throw him back into the sea. Once you choose a new Warden of the East." The king groaned. "For the last time, I will not name the Arryn boy Warden. I know the boy is your nephew, but with Targaryens climbing in bed with Dothraki, I would be mad to rest 1/4 of the realm on the shoulders of a sickly child." Ned had an answer for that. "Yet we still must have a Warden of the East. If Robert Arryn will not do, name one of your brothers. Stannis proved himself at the Siege of Storm's End, surely." Ned let the silence fill the space between them, looking at the king frowning. "That is," Ned finished quietly watching, "unless you have already promised the honor to another." Robert looked like a kid found upon doing something he shouldn't before his quick anger came charging back. "What if I have?" "It's Jaime Lannister, is it not?" Robert nudged his horse to move and rode down the ridge, facing the old barrows. Lord Eddard followed, waiting. The king avoided his eyes. "Yes," he said at last. He sounded final. "Kingslayer," Ned said. The hearsay was true after all. Ned was on dangerous grounds now. "An able and courageous man, no doubt," he said carefully. "But his father is Warden of the West, Robert. In time, Sir Jaime will succeed to that honor. No one man should hold both east and west. About his main concern, he remains silent. How making Jaime the Warden of the East would put half of the realm's army under his thumb. I will fight that battle when the enemy appears on the field, the king said stubbornly. At that moment, Lord Tywin looms eternal as Castle Rock, so I doubt that Jaime will be succeeding anytime soon. Don't vex me about this, Ned. The stone has been set. Your Grace, may I speak frankly? I seem unable to stop you, Robert muttered. They rode through tall brown grasses now. Can you trust Jaime Lannister? He is my wife's twin, a sworn brother of the Kingsguard. His life and fortune and honor all bound to mine. As they were bound to Aerys Targaryens, Ned reminded him. Why should I mistrust him? He has done everything I have ever asked of him. His sword helped win the throne I sit on. What his sword did, Ned thought, tainted the throne more than win it, but he kept this to himself too. He swore a vow to protect the king's life with his own, then he opened that king's throat with a sword. 7 hells, someone had to kill Aerys, Robert said, stopping his mount suddenly beside an ancient barrow. If Jaime hadn't done it, it would have been left for you or me. We were not sworn brothers of the Kingsguard, Ned said. It was time Robert learnt the whole truth about this. Do you remember the trident, Your Grace? I won my crown there, how should I forget it? You took a wound from Rhaegar, Ned reminded him. So when the Targaryen host broke and ran, you gave the pursuit into my hands. The remnants of Rhaegar's army fled back to King's Landing. We followed. Aerys was in the Red Keep with several thousand loyalists. I expected to find the gates closed to us. Robert shook his head impatiently. Instead, you found that our men had already taken the city. What of it? Not our men, Ned said. Lannister men. The Lion of Lannister flew over the ramparts, not the crowned stag. And they had taken the city by treachery. The war was long, and the lords had all chosen sides, some standing under Robert's banner, others remaining loyal to the Mad King. Not the Lannisters, though. They placed themselves in the middle, ignoring the calls to arms from both sides, waiting. Then when Aerys thought he was lost, Tywin Lannister and 12,000 of his men appeared at King's Landing, pledging loyalty to the Targaryens. Aerys made his last mistake, opened the gates for the Lannister army. Treachery was a coin the Targaryens knew well, Robert said. He sounded angry again. Lannister paid them back in kind. It was no less than they deserved. I shall not trouble my sleep over it. You were not there, Ned said bitterly. Troubled sleep was an old friend of his. Lies haunted him for 14 years, and they would end today. There was no honor in that conquest. The others take your honor, Robert swore. What did any Targaryen ever know of honor? Go down into your crypt and ask Lyanna about the dragon's honor. You avenged Lyanna at the Trident, Ned said, halting beside the king. Promise me, Ned, she had whispered. That did not bring her back. Robert looked away, staring into nothing. The gods be damned. It was a hollow victory they gave me. A crown. It was the girl I prayed them for. Your sister, safe, and mine again, as she was meant to be. I ask you, Ned, what good is it to wear a crown? The gods mock the prayers of kings and cowherds alike. I cannot answer for the gods, Your Grace. Only what I found when I rode into the throne room that day, Ned said. Aerys was dead on the floor, drowned in his own blood. His dragon skull stared down from the walls. Lannister's men were everywhere. Jaime wore the white cloak of the Kingsguard over his golden armor. I can see him still. Even his sword was gilded. He was seated on the Iron Throne, high above his knights, wearing a helm fashioned in the shape of a lion's head. How he glittered. This is well known, the king complained. I was still mounted. I rode the length of the hall in silence between the long rows of dragon skulls. It felt as though they were watching me somehow. I stopped in front of the throne, looking up at him. His golden sword was across his legs, its edge red with a king's blood. My men were filing the room behind me. Lannister's men drew back. I never said a word. I looked at him, seated there on the throne, and I waited. At last Jaime laughed and got up. He took off his helm and he said to me, "Have no fear, Stark. I was only keeping it warm for our friend Robert. It's not a very comfortable seat, I'm afraid." The king roared with laughter. The sound scared a flight of crows from the tall grass. "You think I should mistrust Lannister because he sat on my throne for a few moments?" He shook with laughter again. "Jaime was all of 17, Ned, scarce more than a boy. Boy or man, he had no right to that throne." "Perhaps he was tired," Robert suggested. "Killing kings is weary work. Gods know there's no place else to rest your ass in that damnable room." And he spoke truly. It is a monstrously uncomfortable chair, in more ways than one. The king shook his head. "Well, now I know Jaime's dark sin, and the matter can be forgotten. I am heartily sick of secrets and squabbles and matters of state, Ned. It's all as tedious as counting coppers. Come, let's ride. You used to know how. I want to feel the wind in my hair again." Robert kicked his horse and galloped up the barrow, spraying earth everywhere. Ned didn't follow right away. He felt helpless, out of things to say, unable to convince his old friend. He was questioning his decision to come at all. He couldn't handle Robert the same way Jon Arryn had. The king will stubbornly go ahead as he had planned, and nothing Ned could say would change his mind. He should just go back to Winterfell to be with Catelyn and Bran. But Lord Eddard knew that a man could not always be where he belonged, and heeling his horse, he followed the king. So, this is where Eddard II ends. This chapter was most likely included in George's original 13-chapter outline from 1993, since it feels as though the chapter is foreshadowing Jaime becoming King of Westeros by killing all of those who stood in his way. As George wrote in his outline, Tyrion Lannister will continue to travel, to plot, and to play the Game of Thrones, finally removing his nephew Joffrey in disgust at the boy king's brutality. Jaime Lannister will follow Joffrey on the throne of the Seven Kingdoms, by the simple expedient of killing everyone ahead of him in the line of succession and blaming his brother Tyrion for the murders. If this is what was meant to happen, then Eddard's warning to Robert seems very prudent. But as it stands, Eddard's assessment of Jaime's character couldn't have been more wrong, and the title of Warden of the East was not even mentioned in A Feast for Crows or A Dance with Dragons, despite the early importance played on it in the story. Instead, Tyrion's assessment of Jaime is more apt when he tells Aegon that, "My brother Jaime thirsts for battle, not for power. He's run from every chance he's had to rule." Next, this chapter has Ned and Robert's discussion take place in the Barrowlands, which seems to be a place of great importance to the story. Ned pointed them out to his king. "The barrows of the first men." Robert frowned. "Have we ridden onto a graveyard?" "There are barrows everywhere in the north, your grace," Ned told him. "This land is old." In A Dance with Dragons, the story again lingers in the Barrowlands with Theon, the grassy slopes of the Great Barrow. Some claimed it was the grave of the first king who had led the first men to Westeros. Others argued that it must have been some king of the giants who was buried there, to account for its size. Moreover, in the world of Ice and Fire, the chapter dedicated to the North talks about the Barrowlands more than all the other northern houses combined, except for House Stark, which again seemed to indicate Barrowtown's importance to the story. Barrowtown too is somewhat of a curiosity, a gathering place built at the foot of the reputed barrow of the first king, who once ruled supreme over all the first men. It could be that the Barrow Kings ruled the North before the Long Night, since they seem to be the oldest house in the North as indicated by their sigil. The rusted crown upon the arms of House Dustin derived from the claim that they themselves descended from the first king and the Barrow Kings who ruled after them. But then, after the long night, the White Walker invasion was stopped at Winterfell, and the Starks built their castle on top of where winter fell and became the Kings of Winter. More historical proof exists for the war between the Kings of Winter and the Barrow Kings to their south, who styled themselves the King of the First Men and claimed supremacy over all First Men everywhere, even the Starks themselves. Runic records suggest that their struggle, dubbed the Thousand Years' War by the Singers, was actually a series of wars that lasted closer to 200 years than 1,000, ending when the last Barrow King bent his knee to the King of Winter and gave him the hand of his daughter in marriage. Lastly, the Barrow Kings are buried in the Barrows, while the Starks are buried in the Winterfell crypts. Maybe after the war with the others, the Starks wanted to prevent their spirits from entering the weirwood net by encasing themselves in stone crypts. "The king is missing his sword," Lady Dustin observed. It was true. Theon did not recall which king it was, but the long sword he should have held was gone. The sight disquieted him. He had always heard that the iron in the sword kept the spirits of the dead locked within their tombs. If a sword was missing, then the children of the forest can maybe access the Starks' memories and their secrets. Now, here are some of the differences between the HBO TV show and book. In the book, Robert and Eddard's conversation about Daenerys takes place during the riding. In the show, it takes place at breakfast. In the book, Jorah is revealed to the reader as an informer during Robert and Ned's discussion in this chapter. While in the show, Jorah is first mentioned to be an informant looking for a pardon in episode 5 during a small council meeting. And that's it for this chapter. Tyrion II. The North was endless. Though Tyrion memorized all the maps, but just 2 weeks on the path the people of North called the King's Road made him understand that maps and reality were two very different things. They had departed Winterfell all at once, the King's company going south with the Knights and the Queen's groaning wheelhouse, and Tyrion north as snow whitened the land. The King's Road was skirting the castle and the town beyond. Here they separated, and Tyrion accompanied Benjen Stark and his nephew instead of the King and Queen. Since then, everything has become colder and quieter. On the west, hills followed the road with watchtowers on their summits. Towards the east, the land flattened into plains rolling as far as one could see. Bridges of stone provided passes over narrow rivers, and small farms spotted the realm, many at once in circles surrounded by walls of stone or wood. They weren't alone on the road, and come night they have always found an inn to rest. After 3 days, however, the farms fell behind, and the King's Road entered a vast forest, growing quieter and more deserted. The hills became bigger by the mile, and by the 5th day there were no longer hills but mountains, blue and grey with snow on the top. The north wind made the snow fly like flags. The mountains walked them in, and the road ran northeast now, through the oaks and black bria and evergreens, some older than anything Tyrion had ever seen. Benjen Stark called this place the Wolf's Wood, and it was easy to see why. Their nights were filled with howls of packs, both distant and nearby. Jon Snow's white direwolf, though pricked its ear to the howling, never answered. Tyrion found the albino, mute animal unsettling. Aside from the wolf, there were 8 men in their party. Tyrion had 2 with him. As a Lannister, he couldn't travel alone. Benjen Stark had no such obligations and travelled only with his nephew. But at the edge of the Wolf's Wood, they picked up another brother of the Night's Watch, a man called Yoren. He had a bent back, and a black beard hid most of his features, but he seemed to be tough as rocks. He brought 2 boys, whom Yoren simply introduced as rapers. Tyrion could understand their choice. Living on the wall was a hard life, but still better than being castrated. So their group counted 5 grown men, 3 boys, the direwolf, and 20 horses, as well as a cage full of ravens that Benjen Stark had gotten from Maester Luwin. An interesting company on any road, surely. Tyrion spotted Jon Snow watching Yoren and his boys with an expression that couldn't be interpreted by anything but dismay. The man smelled bad, and his long hair and greasy beard scrawled with lice, with the 2 boys smelling even worse, looking both stupid and cruel. Snow, Tyrion thought, made the mistake of thinking that the Night's Watch had members as honorable as his uncle. Yoren and his charges must have been like icy water dropped on him. Tyrion was sorry for Jon Snow. The boy picked a hard life, or more likely, had a hard life chosen for him. Tyrion felt nowhere near as friendly towards the uncle Benjen Stark, as his brother Eddard had a strong distaste for the Lannister family, and was not at all happy with the dwarf accompanying them. "I warn you, Lannister, you'll find no inns at the wall," he had said, looking down on him. "No doubt you'll find some place to put me," Tyrion had replied. "As you might have noticed, I'm small." Stark couldn't say no to the Queen's brother, which of course decided the matter. But the man did not hide his displeasure. "You will not like the ride, I promise you that," he'd said to Tyrion, and then made a point of proving it to the dwarf. Just a week after setting out, Tyrion was broken, with his bones frozen, his legs cramping, and his thighs raw from riding. He didn't say a word. The dwarf decided not to give Benjen Stark the satisfaction. Tyrion used his riding fur and old pieces of bearskin to have some small revenge. This he got from Stark, who offered it while expecting Tyrion to decline. The dwarf accepted the skin happily. Though he had packaged his warmest clothes for the road, it became clear very soon that they were no match for the north. Days grew colder, and the nights were always below freezing. Ice-cold wind cutting through wools. Tyrion knew that by now Benjen was regretting offering the bearskin. Maybe he learned his lesson. A Lannister took what he needed. The farms were now even rarer sights and became smaller as they passed through the woods towards the north, until one day none were to be seen, and they had to shelter for the night however they could. They never asked for Tyrion's help when making or breaking up a camp. He was too small, deformed, and always in the way. Tyrion didn't mind. While Benjen and Yoren and the others built crude shelters, he went away with his bearskin and wine to read. On the night of the 18th day, he was drinking sweet amber wine he brought from Castle Rock and was reading a book about dragons. Lord Eddard Stark granted him permission to borrow a few rare books from the Winterfell's own library, and Tyrion took them for the road. Tyrion settled at a cozy spot a little off to the noisy camp, on the bank of an ice-cold swift stream. An old oak sheltered him from the biting wind. With his back to it and covered in the bearskin, Tyrion took a sip of wine and began to read about the many uses of dragonbone. According to the book, dragonbone was black because it had a lot of iron. As strong as steel, but much lighter and more flexible, he read, and naturally resistant to fire. Bows made of dragonbone were highly valued by the Dothraki, as an archer with a dragonbone bow could always outrange any other. Tyrion Lannister was fascinated with dragons. The first thing he did when arriving at King's Landing for his sister's wedding was to go and see the dragon skulls said to be hung on the walls of the throne room. King Robert had taken them down, but Tyrion persisted and found them in a cellar. He had thought they would be impressive, or maybe even scary. In the end, he found them beautiful, polished and black, bouncing light off their surfaces. Tyrion felt like the skulls liked the fire of his torch. When he put it in the mouth of the biggest skull, shadows came alive in the room. The dragon's teeth were long and black and curved like knives. The meager flames of the torch could not hurt them, as they withstood much stronger fires. As Tyrion left the room, he thought the empty eye sockets were following him out. There were 19 of them altogether. The oldest of the skulls was over 3,000 years old, while the younger one was as new as a century and a half. It was not only the youngest, but also the smallest one, not bigger than a skull of a mastiff, weirdly shaped, and all that remained of the last dragon that ever hatched. The last Targaryen dragons, at least, and maybe the last in the world too. They died young. There were bigger skulls too, the skulls of the monsters in the tales, coming from the dragons Aegon Targaryen and his sisters rode while attacking the Seven Kingdoms. The stories named them after gods: Balerion, Meraxus, Vhagar. Now Tyrion Lannister stood between their jaws, amazed. One could ride a horse down Vhagar's gullet, though it would be a one-way road. Meraxus was larger still, yet he wasn't the biggest one. That honor went to Balerion, the Black Dread, who could have easily swallowed one of the hairy mammoths of the old stories. Tyrion stayed in that cellar for a long time, staring at Balerion's gigantic empty skull, trying to imagine how big the animal must have been, how it looked when black wings blotted out the sun. Back in the day, his own ancestor, King Loron of Castle Rock, had tried to fight the fire, joining King Mern of the Reach, facing the conquesting force of the Targaryens. This happened some 300 years ago, when the Seven Kingdoms were in fact kingdoms, and not merely provinces under a single throne. The two kings had 600 families under their banners, 5,000 riding knights, and 50,000 freelancers. Aegon Dragonlord had, if the chronicles are trustworthy, a fifth. Aegon Dragonlord had, if the chronicles are trustworthy, a fifth of that number. And even those disloyal men of the previous King Aegon had killed. The armies met on open fields of the Reach. The two kings charged and the Targaryen army fled. Victory seemed easy for a few moments, and then Aegon and his sisters joined the fight. This was the only time in history that the three dragons, Vhagar, Meraxus, and Balerion, had been unleashed together. Stories call it the Field of Fire. Almost 4,000 men had died that day, including King Men of the Reach. King Loron, however, had escaped, given up, and pledged his loyalty to the Targaryens, living long enough to have a son, which Tyrion found rather fortunate. "Why do you read so much?" Tyrion looked up. Jon Snow was looking down at him, his face curious. The dwarf marked his place in the book with a finger and said, "Look at me and tell me what you see." The boy looked at him suspiciously. "Is this some kind of trick? I see you." Tyrion sighed. "You are remarkably polite for a bastard, Snow. What you see is a dwarf." "You are what, 12? 14, the boy said. 14, and you're taller than I will ever be. My legs are short and twisted, and I walk with difficulty. I require a special saddle to keep from falling off my horse. A saddle of my own design. You may be interested to know. It was either that or ride a pony. My arms are strong enough, but again, too short. I will never make a swordsman. Had I been born a peasant, they might have left me out to die, or sold me to some slaver's grotesquerie. Alas, I was born a Lannister of Castle Rock, and the grotesqueries are all the poorer. Things are expected of me. My father was the hand of the king for 20 years. My brother later killed that very same king, as it turns out. But life is full of these little ironies. My sister married the new king, and my repulsive nephew will be the king after him. I must do my part for the honor of my house. Wouldn't you agree? Yet, how? Well, my legs may be too small for my body, but my head is too large. although I prefer to think it is just large enough for my mind. I have a realistic grasp of my own strengths and weaknesses. My mind is my weapon. My brother has his sword, King Robert has his warhammer, and I have my mind. And a mind needs book as a sword needs a wheatstone, if it is to keep its edge. Tyrion tapped the leather cover of the book. That's why I read so much, Jon Snow. The boy listened in silence. Though he didn't have the name, he looked a Stark. Long face, guarded expression. Whoever his mother had been, he inherited very little from her. "What are you reading about?" he asked. "Dragons," Tyrion told him. "What good is that? There are no more dragons," the boy said, as sure as only a boy can be. "So they say," Tyrion replied. "Sad, isn't it? When I was your age, I used to dream of having a dragon of my own." "You did?" the boy said suspiciously. He might have thought that Tyrion was mocking him. "Oh yes, even a stunted, twisted, ugly little boy can look down over the world when he's seated on a dragon's back." Tyrion pushed the bearskin aside and stood. "I used to start fires in the bowels of Castle Rock and stare at the flames for hours, pretending they were dragon fire. Sometimes I'd imagine my father burning. At other times, my sister." Jon Snow was staring at him with a mixture of horror and interest. Tyrion scoffed. "Don't look at me that way, bastard. I know your secret. You've dreamt the same kind of dreams." "No," Jon Snow said, horrified. "I wouldn't." "No? Never?" Tyrion raised an eyebrow. "Well, no doubt the Starks have been terribly good to you. I'm certain Lady Stark treats you as if you are one of her own. And your brother Robb. He's always been kind, and why not? He gets Winterfell, and you get the Wall. And your father. He must have good reasons for packing you off to the Night's Watch." "Stop it," Jon Snow said angrily. "The Night's Watch is a noble calling." Tyrion laughed. "You're too smart to believe that. The Night's Watch is a midden heap for all the misfits of the realm. I've seen you looking at Yoren and his boys. Those are your new brothers, Jon Snow. How do you like them? Sullen peasants, debitors, poachers, rapers, thieves, and bastards like you all wind up on the Wall, watching for grumpkins and snarks and all the other monsters your wet nurse warned you about. The good part is there are no grumpkins or snarks, so it's scarcely dangerous work. The bad part is you freeze your balls off. But since you're not allowed to breed anyway, I don't suppose that matters." "Stop it!" the boy screamed. He stepped towards Tyrion, hands balled into fists, tears in his eyes. Tyrion felt guilty. He stepped towards the boy, wanting to apologize. He had no idea where the wolf came from. At one moment he was walking, and in the next, laying on the ground, the book flying, his mouth full of dirt and blood. The fall put his back out, and he had to use a root to pull himself painfully up to a sitting position. "Help me," he said to the boy, reaching up a hand. In a blink, the wolf was there, between them. He was still silent. The wretched thing was always silent. He merely flashed his red eyes at Tyrion, baring his fangs. But the dwarf understood the message. He lowered himself back onto the ground. "Don't help me then. I'll sit right here until you leave." Jon Snow patted Ghost and smiled. "Ask me nicely." Tyrion felt his anger rising and forced it away. Humiliation was an old friend, and this time he might even deserve it. "I should be very grateful for your kind assistance, Jon," he said mildly. "Down, Ghost," the boy said. The direwolf sat back. The red eyes followed Tyrion as Jon stepped closer and helped Tyrion on his feet. He even picked the book up. "Why did he attack me?" Tyrion asked with a sidelong glance at the direwolf. He wiped the dirt and blood off his mouth. "Maybe he thought you were a grumpkin." Tyrion looked at him sharply. Then he burst out laughing, against his own will. "Oh gods," he said, choking on his laughter and shaking his head. "I suppose I do rather look like a grumpkin. What does he do to snarks?" You don't want to know. Jon picked up the wineskin and handed it to Tyrion. Tyrion unstoppered the skin and took a long pull of wine. It went down like cold fire, warming his belly. He offered the skin to Jon. Want some? The boy took it and had a careful sip. It's true, isn't it? He said, when he was done. What you said about the Night's Watch. Tyrion nodded. Jon Snow pursed his lips together stubbornly. If that's what it is, that's what it is. Tyrion grinned at him. That's good, bastard. Most men would rather deny a hard truth than face it. Most men, the boy said. But not you. No, Tyrion admitted. Not me. I seldom even dream of dragons anymore. There are no dragons. He picked up the bearskin. Come, we had better return to camp before your uncle calls the banners. Though it was a short walk, Tyrion's legs were cramping. Jon offered a helping hand over a particularly troublesome tangle of roots, but Tyrion shooed him off. He wanted to make his own way, as he had in his entire life. Even so, he was happy to see the camp. The shelters were built against the remains of a holdfast, good protection against the wind. Horses attended to, and fires were burning already. Yoren was skinning a squirrel. The smell of stew filled the air. He stumbled towards his own man, Morrick, who was tending to the stop. Without a word, he offered the ladle, and Tyrion tasted the food. More pepper, he said. Benjen Stark emerged from a shelter. There you are, Jon. Damn it, don't go off like that by yourself. I thought the others had gotten you. It was the Grumpkins, Tyrion told him, laughing. Jon Snow smiled. Stark gave a baffled look to Yoren, who just shrugged and continued his bloody work. The squirrel enriched the stew somewhat, and they ate it with the black bread and cheese, sitting around the fire. Tyrion offered his wineskin to his companions, which won even Yoren over. Soon they all went to sleep. Everyone but Jon Snow, the first guard of the night. As usual, Tyrion retired last. Before entering the shelter his men built, he looked at Jon Snow one more time. The boy was staring into the fire, face hard as a Stark's. Tyrion had a sad smile on his face as he stepped inside. And this is where Tyrion II ends. Now, this chapter mostly sets up Tyrion and Jon's friendship, which is interesting because if Tyrion becomes an advisor to Dani, he might be the bridge that brings Dani and Jon together. This chapter sets up Tyrion's obsession with dragons and resentment of his own family, which cleverly foreshadows his desire for Daenerys to bring fire and blood upon his own house in A Dance with Dragons, showing that George loves to foreshadow events and character arcs books in advance. After A Clash of Kings or the first half of A Storm of Swords, you couldn't imagine Tyrion going off to join Daenerys in Slaver's Bay. But this chapter sets up both Tyrion's desire and motivation to do so. This chapter also introduces Tyrion's escorts and guards, Jaik and Morrick. Morrick serves as Tyrion's groom, cook, body servant, but not a true bodyguard, which leaves Jaik as the real guardsman. So, some of the differences between the HBO TV show and book. In the TV series, Yoren doesn't appear in the scene with the two. The book also doesn't specify that Rast is one of the captains. In the show, Tyrion does tease Jon by describing what low-life scum his new brothers are, but is not knocked to the ground by Ghost, like he is in the book. Then there's also an additional scene where Jon arrives at the wall and that's it for this chapter. Catelyn III. 8 days after Ned and the girls left for King's Landing, Maester Luwin entered Bran's sick room with a lamp and a book of accounts. "It is past time that we reviewed the figures, my lady," he said. "You'll want to know how much this royal visit cost us." Catelyn glanced at Bran in his bed, gently brushing his hair out of his eyes. It was now too long, she thought, due for a cut. "I have no need to look at the figures, Maester Luwin," she told him, never looking away from Bran. "I know what the visit cost us. Take the books away." My lady, the king's party had healthy appetites. We must replenish our stores before... She cut him off. I said, take the books away. The steward will attend to our needs. We have no steward, Maester Lewin reminded her. Like a little grey rat, she thought angrily. Pole went south to establish Lord Eddard's household at King's Landing. Catelyn nodded absent-mindedly. Oh yes, I remember. Bran was very pale. Catelyn was thinking about moving his bed so the boy could catch the sun in the morning. The maester set his lamp by the door, but wasn't leaving yet. There are several appointments that require your immediate attention, my lady. Besides the steward, we need a captain of the guards to fill Jory's place, a new master of horse. Her eyes landed on him. A master of horse! Her voice was sharp. The maester was shaken. Yes, my lady. Hullen rode south with Lord Eddard, so... My son lies here broken and dying, Lewin, and you wish to discuss a new master of horse? Do you think I care what happens in the stables? Do you think it matters to me one whit? I would gladly butcher every horse in Winterfell with my own hands if it would open Bran's eyes. Do you understand that? Do you? Lewin bowed his head. Yes, my lady, but the appointments... I'll make the appointments, Robb said. Catelyn didn't hear her son enter, but there he was, standing in the doorway and looking at her. Awkwardly, she realized that she had been shouting. What was wrong with her? Catelyn Stark felt tired, so tired, and her head was now hurting all the time. Lewin looked at Robb. I have prepared a list of those we might wish to consider for the vacant offices, he said, offering Robb a piece of paper. The boy glanced at the list. He must have been outside, Catelyn thought, looking at Robb's windswept hair and reddened face. Good men, he said. We'll talk about them tomorrow. He handed back the list of names. Very good, my lord. The paper vanished into Lewin's sleeve. Leave us now, Robb said. Maester Lewin bowed and obeyed. Robb closed the door after him and turned to look at his mother. Catelyn noticed a sword on his side, which was new. Mother, what are you doing? The woman had always thought that Robb took after her. Like Bran, Rickon, and Sansa, he had the colors of the Tully, auburn hair and blue eyes. But now, Catelyn saw his father in his face. Lord Eddard's stern, hard, Nordish face. What am I doing? She echoed, puzzled. How can you ask that? What do you imagine I'm doing? I'm taking care of your brother. I'm taking care of Bran. Is that what you call it? You haven't left this room since Bran was hurt. You didn't even come to the gate when father and the girls went south. I said my farewells to them here, and I watched them ride out from the window. She begged Ned to stay, not to leave his son behind after his fall. Everything was different now. Why couldn't Ned see that? It was all pointless though. Lord Eddard said he had no choice, and made one. Leaving. I can't leave him, even for a moment, not when any moment could be his last. I have to be with him. Catelyn laced her fingers together with Bran's limp ones. Though he felt fragile now, he was still warm. Robb's voice lost its edge. He's not going to die, Mother. Maester Lewin says the time of greatest danger has passed. And what if Maester Lewin is wrong? What if Bran needs me and I'm not here? Rickon needs you, Robb said sharply. He's only 3. He doesn't understand what's happening. He thinks everyone has deserted him, so he follows me around all day, clutching my leg and crying. I don't know what to do with him. He paused a moment, biting on his lower lip, the same way he used to as a small child. Mother, I need you too. I'm trying, but I can't do it all by myself. His voice was breaking, full of emotions, reminding Catelyn that he was still only 14. She wanted to hug him, but Bran was holding her hand, and she couldn't get up. A howl came from outside, and Catelyn startled. Bran's. Robb opened the window, letting cool night air into the room. The howling got louder. It sounded sad, full of melancholy. Don't, she told him. Bran needs to stay warm. He needs to hear them sing, Robb said. Somewhere, a second wolf began to howl, then a third, closer. Shaggy Dog and Greywind, Robb said, as their voices rose and fell together. You can tell them apart if you listen closely. Catelyn was trembling. Grief, cold, and the sound of the direwolves all together were too much for her. Every night it was cold and loud of the howls. Nothing ever changing, and her sweetest, gentlest boy was laying broken. Bran, who climbed everything and wanted to be a knight, but now it was all gone. Now crying, Catelyn freed her hand so she could cover her ears. "Make them stop," she cried. "I can't stand it. Make them stop. Make them stop. Kill them all if you must. Just make them stop." She was on the floor now, though how she ended up there, Catelyn couldn't say. Robb lifted her up. "Don't be afraid, Mother. They would never hurt him." He helped her to a narrow bed in the corner of the room. "Close your eyes," he said gently. "Rest. Maester Luwin tells me you've hardly slept since Bran's fall." "I can't," she wept. "Gods forgive me, Robb. I can't. What if he dies while I'm asleep? What if he dies? What if he dies?" The wolves were still howling. Catelyn cried out, covering her ears again. "Oh gods, close the window!" "If you swear to me you'll sleep." As Robb reached the shutters, another sound joined in the howls. "Dogs," he said, listening. "All the dogs are barking. They've never done that before." Catelyn heard him gasp. Turning away from the window, Robb's face was pale. "Fire," he whispered. Catelyn's first thought was Bran. "Help me," she said urgently, sitting up. "Help me with Bran." Robb wasn't listening to her. "The library tower's on fire," he said. Lady Stark could see the flickering lights now through the window. She sat back with relief. The library was across the keep, far away. Bran couldn't be touched. He was safe. "Thank the gods," she whispered. Robb looked at her incredulously. "Mother, stay here. I'll come back as soon as the fire's out." He then ran. He was shouting for the guards as he went. Running down the stairs, and others outside picked up his shouts, echoing, "Fire!" all around. Horses were neighing nervously, and the dogs were barking loudly in their fright. The direwolves, however, went silent. Stepping up to the window, Catelyn said a quiet prayer, thanking the seven-faced gods. Across them, the library was consumed by flames. She thought of the books sadly, all the tombs collected over the centuries, then closed the shutters. There was a man in the room when he turned back. "You weren't supposed to be here," he muttered sourly. "No one was supposed to be here." A small man he was, smelling of horses and wearing dirty clothes. Catelyn knew all the stable boys, and he wasn't one. Just a gaunt stranger with blonde hair and a dagger in his hand. Catelyn Stark looked first at the knife, then at her son. "No," she said. All she could muster was a whisper. He must have heard her anyway. "It's a mercy," he said. "He's dead already." "No," Catelyn repeated, louder now. "No, you can't." She wheeled around again towards the window, wanting to scream for help, but the man was faster than she could have thought. One hand covered her mouth while the other lifted the blade to her throat. His smell was overwhelming. Catelyn grabbed the dagger with both hands, pulling it away from her skin. The man cursed. Even though it cut her badly, she held onto the blade. The man's other hand was clenching her face harder now, trying to suffocate her. Catelyn bit the palm and the man groaned in pain. Blood filled her mouth as the man let go of her. She scrambled as he grabbed her hair, dragging her somewhere, and Catelyn went down after stumbling over something. The man was standing over her, breathing hard. The dagger, red with her blood, was still in his hand. "You weren't supposed to be here," he repeated stupidly. She saw the thing, merely a shadow, slipping into the room behind the man. A low rumble came, barely a sound, but the man must have heard because he turned around just as the wolf pounced. Wolf and man both fell on Catelyn. It was but a second, a closing jaw and a scream of the man, and then the wolf tore his throat out. Warm blood was spraying all over Catelyn's face. The animal was looking at her now, its maw wet and red, eyes glowing golden in the darkness. Bran's wolf. Bran's wolf, of course, she thought. Thank you, Catelyn whispered, her voice distant and weak. She lifted her shaking hand. The wolf came closer, first sniffing, then licking the blood off her fingers. Once he was done, he went to Bran's bed and lay down beside the boy. Catelyn laughed. This is how they found them. Robb and Lewin and Sir Roderick and half the guards in Winterfell. When Catelyn stopped her hysterical laughing, they put warm blankets around her and escorted her back to the Great Keep, to her own room. Old Nan took her clothes off and bathed her, washing away the remaining of the blood. Later, Maester Lewin visited her to tend to her wounds. The cuts were bone deep, and her scalp, where the man tore out her hair, was aching too. Lewin told her that the pain is only going to get worse, and gave her poppy milk so she could sleep. At last her eyes closed. When she came to again, she was told that she had slept for 4 days. Catelyn sat up. The last few weeks felt like a nightmare just then, but the pain in her cut hand told her another story. Though feeling weak, she was also resolute. Bring me some bread and honey, she told her servants, and take word to Maester Lewin that my bandages want changing. The servants obeyed. Catelyn recalled how she acted before and felt shame. She let everyone down, not only her children and husband, but her house too. Never again. She decided to show the North how tough a Tully from Riverrun can be. Robb was the first to come, even before her food. He wasn't alone. Roderick Castle was with him, and Eddard's ward, Theon Greyjoy, as well as Hallis Mullen, a guardsman of strong stature. Robb introduced him as the new captain of the guards. Robb himself was dressed in leather and ringmail, carrying a sword. Who was he? Catelyn asked them. No one knows his name, Hallis Mullen told her. He was no man of Winterfell, my lady. But some says they seen him here and about the castle these past few weeks. One of the king's men then, she said, or one of the Lannisters. He could have waited behind when the others left. Maybe, Hal said. With all these strangers filling up Winterfell of late, there's no way of saying who he belonged to. He's been hiding in your stables, Greyjoy said. You could smell it on him. And how could he go unnoticed, she said sharply. Hallis Mullen looked ashamed. Between the horses Lord Eddard took south, and them we sent north to the Night's Watch, the stalls were half empty. It were no great trick to hide from the stable boys. Could be Hodor saw him. The talk is that boy's been acting queer, but simple as he is, Hal shook his head. We found where he'd been sleeping, Robb put in. He had 90 silver stags in a leather bag buried beneath the straw. It's good to know my son's life was not sold cheaply, Catelyn said bitterly. Hallis Mullen looked at her, confused. Begging your grace, milady, you saying he was out to kill your boy? Theon looked doubtful. That's madness. He came for Bran, Catelyn said. He kept muttering how I wasn't supposed to be there. He set the library fire, thinking I would rush to put it out, taking any guards with me. If I hadn't been half mad with grief, it would have worked. Why would anyone want to kill Bran? Robb said. Gods, he's only a little boy, helpless, sleeping. Catelyn looked at him with a challenging expression. If you are to rule in the North, you must think these things through, Robb. Answer your own question. Why would anyone want to kill a sleeping child? Before Robb could answer, the servants returned, bringing much more than what she had asked for. Warm bread and melting butter, honey, blackberry jam, bacon and eggs, cheese and tea. Maester Lewin arrived as well. How is my son, Maester? Catelyn looked at the food and found she had no appetite. Maester Lewin lowered his eyes. Unchanged, my lady. This was what she anticipated. The pain in her hand was throbbing badly, as if the blade was still cutting her flesh. After the servants left, Catelyn turned back to Robb. "Do you have the answer yet?" "Someone is afraid Bran might wake up," Robb said. "Afraid of what he might say or do. Afraid of something he knows." Catelyn was proud of him. "Very good." She looked at the new guard captain. "We must keep Bran safe. If there was one killer, there could be others." "How many guards do you want, my lady?" Hal asked. "So long as Lord Eddard is away, my son is master of Winterfell," she told him. Robb pulled himself up to his full height. "Put one man in the sick room, night and day, one outside the door, two at the bottom of the stairs. No one sees Bran without my warrant or my mother's." "As you say, my lord." "Do it now," Catelyn suggested. "And let his wolf stay in the room with him," Robb added. "Yes," Catelyn said, and then again, "Yes." Hallis Mullen bowed and hurried away. "Lady Stark," Sir Roderick said, "did you chance to notice the dagger the killer used?" "The circumstances did not allow me to examine it closely, but I can vouch for its edge," Catelyn replied with a dry smile. "Why do you ask?" "We found the knife still in the villain's grasp. It seemed to me that it was altogether too fine a weapon for such a man, so I looked at it long and hard. The blade is Valyrian steel, the hilt dragon bone. A weapon like that had no business being in the hands of such as him. Someone gave it to him." Catelyn nodded, thoughtful. Robb closed the door. His face was questioning, but he did as he was told. "What I am about to tell you must not leave this room," she told them. "I want your oaths on that. If even part of what I suspect is true, Ned and my girls have ridden into deadly danger, and a word in the wrong ears could mean their lives." "Lord Eddard is a second father to me," said Theon Greyjoy. "I do so swear." "You have my oath," Maester Luwin said. "And mine, my lady," echoed Sir Roderick. She looked at her son. "And you, Robb?" He nodded. "My sister Lysa believes the Lannisters murdered her husband, Lord Arryn, the Hand of the King," Catelyn told them. "It comes to me that Jaime Lannister did not join the hunt the day Bran fell. He remained here in the castle. The room was deathly quiet. I do not think Bran fell from that tower," she said into the stillness. "I think he was thrown." Shocked faces all around. "My lady, that is a monstrous suggestion," said Roderick Castle. "Even the Kingslayer would flinch at the murder of an innocent child." "Oh, would he?" Theon Greyjoy asked. "I wonder." "There is no limit to Lannister pride or Lannister ambition," Catelyn said. "The boy had always been sure-handed in the past," Maester Luwin said, thoughtfully. "He knew every stone in Winterfell." "Gods," Robb swore, his young face angry. "If this is true, he will pay for it." He drew his sword. "I'll kill him myself." Sir Roderick bristled at him. "Put that away. The Lannisters are 100 leagues away. Never draw your sword unless you mean to use it. How many times must I tell you, foolish boy?" Ashamed, Robb sheathed his sword, suddenly looking like a child again. Catelyn said to Sir Roderick, "I see my son is wearing steel now." The old Master-at-Arms said, "I thought it was time." Robb was looking at his mother anxiously. "Past time," she said. "Winterfell may have need of all its swords soon, and they had best not be made of wood." Theon put a hand on the hilt of his weapon and said, "My lady, if it comes to that, my house owes yours a great debt." Maester Luwin pulled at his chain collar so it wouldn't hurt his neck. "All we have is conjecture. This is the Queen's beloved brother we mean to accuse. She will not take it kindly. We must have proof, or forever keep silent." "Your proof is in the dagger," Sir Roderick said. "A fine blade like that will not have gone unnoticed." Catelyn knew that they won't find the truth up here, in the north. Someone must go to King's Landing. "I'll go," Robb said. "No," she told him. "Your place is here. There must always be a Stark in Winterfell." She looked over the others, Lewin in his grey robes, Sir Roderick his moustache white, the young and eager Greyjoy. Who would be the best for the job? Who has the weight to be listened to? Well, of course, who else? She threw the blankets off, her wounded fingers hard to bend, and stood. I must go myself. My lady, said Maester Lewin, is that wise? Surely the Lannisters would greet your arrival with suspicion. What about Bran? Robb asked. The boy looked very confused now. You can't mean to leave him? I have done everything I can for Bran, she said, touching his son's arm. His life is in the hands of the gods and Maester Lewin. As you reminded me yourself, Robb, I have other children to think of now. You will need a strong escort, my lady, Theon said. I'll send Hal with a squad of guardsmen, Robb said. No, Catelyn said. A large party attracts unwelcome attention. I would not have the Lannisters know I am coming. Sir Roderick protested. My lady, let me accompany you at least. The King's Road can be perilous for a woman alone. I will not be taking the King's Road, Catelyn replied. She thought for a moment, then nodded her consent. 2 riders can move as fast as 1, and a good deal faster than a long column burdened by wagons and wheelhouses. I will welcome your company, Sir Roderick. We will follow the White Knife down to the sea and hire a ship at White Harbour. Strong horses and brisk winds should bring us to King's Landing well ahead of Ned and the Lannisters. And then, she thought, we will see. And this is where Catelyn III ends. Now, here is further evidence for why Mance Rayder might have been the one who sent the Catspaw. Firstly, the Catspaw tells Catelyn that killing Bran, it's a mercy. And the only other place in Westeros that openly talks about murdering defective children as a mercy is north of the Wall. Val tells Jon, north of the Wall it is. Hemlock is a sure cure, but a pillow or a blade will work as well. If I had given birth to that poor child, I would have given her the gift of mercy long ago. So, if Mance hired the Catspaw, he might have used the wording, it's a mercy, and the Catspaw recycled this when justifying his attack to Catelyn. The final piece of evidence comes from A Clash of Kings, when Jorah Mormont tells Jon, each king north of the Wall have always failed because of one fundamental problem. Each man of them broke his strength on the Wall, or was broken by the power of Winterfell on the far side. But the Night's Watch is only a shadow of what we were, and who remains to oppose the wildlings beside us? The Lord of Winterfell is dead, and his heir has marched his strength south to fight the Lannisters. The wildlings may never again have such a chance as this. And Mance knows this, so it would be pretty impressive if this was all instigated by Mance himself, since he recognized the past mistake of all the wildling kings before him. What to do about the Starks of Winterfell? Well, the answer is simple. Force them to play the Game of Thrones, and if Mance is Sir Arthur Dayne, he knows exactly how to do this, despite living north of the Wall since Robert's Rebellion. Here are some of the other differences between the HBO TV show and book. An additional scene in the TV series where Catelyn searches the old tower and finds a golden hair. She suspects that the Lannisters are involved in Bran's accident even before finding out the dagger is Valyrian steel. In the TV series, the Winterfell meeting between Catelyn, Robb, Theon, Sir Roderick and Maester Lewin takes place in the Godswood instead of in the castle. In the book, Catelyn does not generally suspect the Lannisters of Bran's fall, nor does she doubt their loyalty to the crown. Instead, she suspects Jaime, mentioning how he did not join the hunt the day Bran fell, but remained inside Winterfell. That's it for this chapter. Sansa I. Lord Eddard had left early in the morning, Septa Mordane told Sansa over breakfast. The king sent for him. Another hunt, I do believe. There are still wild orcas in these lands, I am told. I've never seen an Orcus, Sansa said, feeding a piece of bacon to Lady under the table. The wolf took it as gently as a queen would. The scepter didn't hide her disapproval. A noble lady does not feed dogs at her table, she said, spreading honey on her bread. She's not a dog, she's a direwolf, Sansa pointed out as Lady licked the grease off her fingers. Anyway, Father said we could keep them with us if we want. This Septim Ordain didn't like either. You're a good girl, Sansa, but I do vow, when it comes to that creature, you're as willful as your sister Arya. She scowled. And where is Arya this morning? She wasn't hungry, Sansa said, knowing that Arya had probably been down at the kitchen hours before, getting her breakfast from some kitchen boy. Do remind her to dress nicely today. The grey velvet, perhaps. We are all invited to ride with the Queen and Princess Marcilla in the royal wheelhouse, and we must look our best. She already did look her best. Sansa had brushed her auburn hair long enough for it to shine and dressed in nice blue silks. She was waiting for today for a week now. Not only was it a great honor to ride with the Queen, but Sansa also hoped that Prince Joffrey might be there, her future husband. It was enough to think about to make Sansa tinkle, even though they wouldn't be married for years to come. The girl was already in love, despite not knowing the prince just yet. Joffrey was how a prince should have been, tall, handsome, blonde. She adored their time together, short as it tended to be, but today she was nervous too. Arya would be there. Arya always ruined everything. There was no telling what she would do. I'll tell her, Sansa said uncertainly, but she'll dress the way she always does. She hoped it wouldn't be too awkward. May I be excused? You may. The scepter pulled more bread and honey in front of herself as Sansa left the bench. Lady followed her out of the inn's common room. Once outside, she stood for a moment, listening to the men cursing and wood creaking as they disassembled the tents and loaded them onto the wagons, getting ready for today's travel. Though with its 3 stories, the inn was the biggest such building Sansa has ever seen. It was still too small to accommodate everyone. Only a third of the king's men could have gotten room. Arya turned out to be brushing Nymeria's fur to remove mud on the banks of the Trident. The direwolf didn't seem to enjoy this. Arya was sporting the riding leather clothes she had on yesterday and the day before that. You better put on something pretty, Sansa told her. Septim Ordain said so. We're traveling in the Queen's wheelhouse with Princess Marcilla today. I'm not, Arya said, fighting with an especially stubborn piece of mud. Micah and I are going to ride upstream and look for rubies at the ford. Rubies, Sansa said, lost. What rubies? Arya gave her a pitying look. Rhaegar's rubies. This is where King Robert killed him and won the crown. Sansa looked at her little sister in disbelief. You can't look for rubies. The princess is expecting us. The Queen invited us both. I don't care, Arya said. The wheelhouse doesn't even have windows. You can't see a thing. What could you want to see? Sansa said, annoyed. She couldn't wait to be with the Queen, and it looked like Arya will once again ruin everything. It's all just fields and farms and holdfasts. It is not, Arya said stubbornly. If you came with us sometimes, you'd see. I hate riding, Sansa said fervently. All it does is get you soiled and dusty and sore. Arya shrugged. Hold still, she snapped at Nymeria. I'm not hurting you. Then to Sansa, she said, when we were crossing the neck, I counted 36 flowers I never saw before, and Micah showed me a lizard lion. Sansa shivered. It took them 12 days to cross the neck, this endless dark bog, and she hated every minute of it. The air was always damp, and the path so narrow they often had to camp right in the middle of the King's Road. The half-submerged trees had odd fungi on them, Large flowers were spotting the area, but should you try to pick some, it was a sure way to fall into a quicksand or be the dinner of some beast hiding in the water or on the trees. But, of course, they didn't stop Arya. The other day, she showed up trailing mud everywhere, holding a handful of purple and green flowers she had picked for their father. Sansa hoped that Eddard would tell Arya off, demanding she behave like a real lady, but their father never did such a thing, and even thanked the girl for the flowers. This only encouraged Arya. Later, it turned out the flowers were what they called poison kisses, and Arya developed a nasty rash on her arms. Sansa thought this would finally teach her sister to behave, but Arya just laughed and rubbed mud all over the rash, because her friend Micah said it would help with the itching. She also had bruises all over her body, green and yellow ones and fresher purple ones as well. Sansa couldn't imagine how she had gotten them. She was now talking about all the wonder she'd seen, continuing to brush her direwolf. Last week, we found this haunted watchtower, and the day before, we chased a herd of wild horses. You should have seen them run when they caught a scent of Nymeria. The wolf wriggled in her grasp, and Arya scolded her. "Stop that, I have to do the other side. You're all muddy." "You're not supposed to leave the column," Sansa reminded her. "Father said so." Arya shrugged. "I didn't go far. Anyway, Nymeria was with me the whole time. I don't always go off either. Sometimes it's fun just to ride along with the wagons and talk to people." Sansa knew what sort of people her sister liked to talk to. Squires and servants, naked children running around, free riders from God's nowhere. Arya could be friends with anyone. The worst of all was Micah, the wild boy, son of a butcher. Sansa hated even to see him, but Arya seemed to like him better than her own sister. Sansa was getting impatient. "You have to come with me," she told her sister firmly. "You can't refuse the queen. Septim Ordain will expect you." Arya ignored her. She annoyed Nymeria into leaping away from the brush. "Come back here!" "There's going to be lemon cakes and tea," Sansa went on, trying to reason with the younger girl. Lady brushed against her leg. Sansa scratched her behind the ears while she watched Arya running after her own wolf. "Why would you want to ride a smelly old horse and get all sore and sweaty when you could recline on feather pillows and eat cakes with the queen?" "I don't like the queen," Arya said casually. Sansa gasped, shocked that even Arya would say such blasphemy. "She won't even let me bring Nymeria." She stashed the brush and approached her direwolf. Nymeria watched her warily. "A royal wheelhouse is no place for a wolf," Sansa said, "and Princess Marcella is afraid of them. You know that." "Bad wolf!" she shouted. Sansa smiled despite herself. She had heard from the kennel master once that an animal will act like its master. She hugged Lady and the wolf gave her a little lick on the cheek, making her giggle. Arya turned and stared at her. "I don't care what you say, I'm going out riding." Her long, stark face was now stubborn, and Sansa knew there was nothing to be done. "Gods be true, Arya. Sometimes you act like such a child," Sansa said. "I'll go by myself then. It will be ever so much nicer that way. Lady and I will eat all the lemon cakes and just have the best time without you." She turned, but Arya called after her, "They won't let you bring Lady either." Then the girl ran away before Sansa could even work out a witty answer, chasing after the half-wild Nymeria. Alone and feeling down, Sansa walked back to the inn, where she was sure the scepter was already waiting. Lady was quietly patting on her side as the girl was fighting off tears. She just wanted everything to be nice and pretty, like in the songs. Why couldn't Arya be more like Princess Marcella, just kind and sweet? Sansa would have preferred to have a sister like Marcella. However she tried, Sansa couldn't understand how two sisters with only 2 years between them were so entirely different. She could have sooner believed that Arya was a bastard like Jon. She even looked like the Snow Boy, with her long face and brown hair, not having inherited anything from their mother. What's worse, people even said that Jon's mother was a commoner. Once when she was little, Sansa even asked her mother, thinking there had been something amiss. Maybe someone had switched Arya with her real sister. Lady Catelyn had laughed and assured her that Arya was her true sister. Hesitantly, but she believed, as she couldn't find a reason why their mother would claim Arya otherwise. Sansa forgot all of this the moment she reached the camp. There was a small crowd around Queen Cersei's wheelhouse. Voices were murmuring excitedly. The doors were open and the Queen herself was standing on the top of the wooden stairs, smiling. Sansa heard her voice too. "The council does us great honor, my good lords." "What's happening?" Sansa asked a squire she knew. "The council sent riders from King's Landing to escort us the rest of the way," he told her. "An honor guard for the king." Curious, Sansa sent her wolf to clear a path for her in the tumult. People stepped aside hastily, not wanting to be close to the direwolf. Finally, Sansa was close enough to see the two kneeling knights in front of Cersei, their armor so beautiful it hurt her eyes. One was white with scales, shining like fresh snow, silver adorning the clasps. The knight took his helmet off, and Sansa saw he was an old man, hair as white as his armor, but not a frail one at all. He had the King's Guard's white cloak draped over his vast shoulders. The other knight wore green steel armor. He was, without a contest, the most beautiful man Sansa has ever seen, tall and muscular, with black hair and a clean face, in which green eyes were laughing. His helmet had golden antlers. Only now did Sansa notice the third newcomer. This man was not kneeling. Standing to the side with the horses, a tall, gaunt man watching the others in silence. His face was clean-shaven, but pock-marked and too thin. He wasn't old, but had barely any hair left, only wisps around his ears, which he left long. Even his armor was unappealing, chainmail over leather, looking old and used. He wore a sword on his back, a blade too big to be carried on one's waist. "The king is gone hunting, but I know he'll be pleased to see you when he returns," the queen was saying to the two knights, but Sansa only had eyes for the third man. He seemed to notice this. As he slowly turned his head towards the girl, Lady began to growl. Suddenly, Sansa was afraid, more afraid than she had ever been before. She stepped back into someone. Two strong hands grasped her, and Sansa thought it was her father, but it turned out to be Sandor Clegane, with a smile on his terrible, burnt face. "You are shaking, girl," he said, his voice rasping. "Do I frighten you so much?" Clegane did frighten her, always have, ever since she first saw the destroyed face, but now the hound somehow looked less scary, at least compared to that other hollow-cheeked man. Yet Sansa stepped away from Sandor Clegane, who laughed, even though Lady stepped between them, growling warningly. Sansa kneeled to hug the direwolf. People were now staring, muttering, and even laughing at her. "A wolf," a man said, and someone else said, "Seven hells, that's a direwolf." And the first man said, "What's it doing in camp?" And the hound's rasping voice replied, "The Starks use them for wet nurses." And Sansa realized that the two knights were looking down on her too, swords in their hands, which scared her all over again. Tears filled her eyes. The queen said, "Joffrey, go to her." And the prince was right there. "Leave her alone," Joffrey said. He was now standing over her, dashing in a blue and black outfit, golden curls shining in the sun like he was already wearing a crown. He reached out and pulled her to her feet. "What is it, sweet lady? Why are you afraid? No one will hurt you. Put away your swords, all of you. The wolf is her little pet, that's all." He looked at Sandor Clegane. "And you, dog, away with you. You're scaring my betrothed." Clegane, loyal to the prince to a fault, bowed and disappeared in the crowd. Sansa tried to calm herself down. She felt foolish. After all, she was a Stark from Winterfell and a future queen. "It was not him, my sweet prince," she tried to explain. "It was the other one." The two knights looked at each other. "Pain?" chuckled the younger one. The older man spoke to Sansa gently. "Oft-times Sir Ilyn frightens me as well, sweet lady. He has a fearsome aspect." "As well he should," the queen said, descending the stairs now. The spectators parted to make way. "If the wicked do not fear the king's justice, you have put the wrong man in the office." Sansa finally found her voice. "Then surely you have chosen the right one, your grace," she said, and people around burst out laughing. "Well spoken, child," said the old man in white, "as befits the daughter of Eddard Stark. I am honored to know you, however irregular the manner of our meeting. I am Sir Barristan Selmy of the King's Guard." He bowed. Sansa knew this name, as well as his rank. "The Lord Commander of the King's Guard," she said, "and Counselor to Robert our King, and to Aerys Targaryen before him. The honor is mine, good knight." Even in the far north, the singers praised the deeds of Barristan the Bold. The Green Knight laughed again. "Barristan the Old, you mean? Don't flatter him too sweetly, child. He thinks overmuch of himself already." He smiled at her. "Now, Wolf Girl, if you can put a name to me as well, then I must concede that you are truly a Hand's daughter." Joffrey tensed beside her. "Have a care how you address my betrothed." "I can answer," Sansa said quickly to calm her prince. She smiled at the Green Knight. "Your helmet bears golden antlers, my lord. The stag is the sigil of the royal house. King Robert has two brothers. By your extreme youth, you can only be Renly Baratheon, Lord of Storm's End and Counselor to the King, and so I name you." Sir Barristan chuckled. "By his extreme youth, he can only be a prancing jackanapes, and so I name him." People laughed again, with Lord Renly being the loudest of all. The tension was now gone, and Sansa felt better. But then Sir Ilyn Payne shoved two men aside to stand in front of her, his face grim. He didn't speak. Lady growled again, but now Sansa quieted her by putting her hand on the wolf's head. "I am sorry if I offended you, Sir Ilyn," she said. Sansa waited, but no answer came. As the executioner stared at her, she felt like he was taking off her clothes with his pale eyes. Then, not saying a word, he walked away. Sansa was confused and looked at Joffrey. "Sir Ilyn has not been feeling very talkative these past 14 years, Lord Renly commented with a sly smile. Joffrey gave his uncle a loathing look, then took Sansa's hands. Aerys Targaryen had his tongue ripped out with hot pincers. "He speaks most eloquently with his sword, however," the queen said, "and his devotion to our realm is unquestioned." Then she smiled graciously and said, "Sansa, the good counselors and I must speak together until the king's return with your father. I fear we shall have to postpone your day with Marcilla. Please give your sweet sister my apologies. Joffrey, perhaps you would be so kind as to entertain our guest today." "It would be my pleasure, mother," Joffrey said very formally. As the prince took her arm and led her away, her spirits rose. An entire day with Joffrey. She glanced at him in worship. So gallant, she thought, and him rescuing her from Sir Ilyn and Sir Clegane, it was almost like in the stories. Surin of the Mirror Shield, saving Princess Darcera from giants, or maybe even Prince Aemon fighting Sir Morgul for Queen Nerys. Joffrey's touch made her heart beat faster. "What would you like to do?" "Be with you," Sansa thought. but she said, "Whatever you'd like to do, my prince." Joffrey reflected a moment. "We could go riding." "Oh, I love riding," Sansa said. Joffrey glanced back at Lady. "Your wolf is liable to frighten the horses, and my dog seems to frighten you. Let us leave them both behind and set off on our own. What do you say?" Sansa hesitated. "If you like," she said uncertainly. "I suppose I could tie Lady up." She did not quite understand, though. "I didn't know you had a dog." Joffrey laughed. "He's my mother's dog, in truth. She has set him to guard me, and so he does." "You mean the hound," she said. She felt embarrassed for being so slow. Joffrey will never love a stupid girl. "Is it safe to leave him behind?" Prince Joffrey looked annoyed. "Have no fear, lady. I am almost a man grown, and I don't fight with wood like your brothers. All I need is this." The prince drew his sword to show it off, a long sword to look at, shrunken to fit a boy. Blue steel double-edged and a golden lion's head as the pommel. Sansa exclaimed in admiration, which pleased Joffrey. "I call it Lion's Tooth," he said. And they left both wolf and hound behind to ride east on the bank, protected by nothing but Lion's Tooth. It was an amazing day. The air was balmy and the woods carried a gentle beauty previously unknown to Sansa, who was used to the forests of the north. Joffrey's horse was swift and he rode recklessly, so much so that Sansa had trouble keeping up. An adventurous day this was. They explored caves on the bank and even followed a shadowcat for a while. When they had gotten hungry, Joffrey found a holdfast and ordered the people to present them with food and wine. Sansa drank too much of this. "My father only lets us have 1 cup, and only at feasts," she confessed to her prince. "My betrothed can drink as much as she wants," Joffrey said, refilling her cup. They slowed down after eating. Joffrey sang for her, his voice high and pure. Sansa was a little dizzy from the wine. "Shouldn't we be starting back?" she asked. "Soon," Joffrey said. "The battleground is right up ahead, where the river bends. That was where my father killed Rhaegar Targaryen, you know." He smashed in his chest, crunch, right through the armor. Joffrey swung an imaginary warhammer. "Then my uncle Jaime killed old Aerys, and my father was king." "What's that sound?" The girl heard it too, coming from the woods. A sort of wooden knocking. Knock, knock, knock. "I don't know," she said. It made her nervous though. "Joffrey, let's go back." "I want to see what it is." Joffrey turned towards the noise, and Sansa had no choice but to do the same. The sound came closer and became louder, joined now by heavy breathing and grunting. "Someone's there," Sansa said anxiously. She found herself thinking of Lady, wishing the direwolf was with her. "You're safe with me." Joffrey drew his lion tooth from its sheath. The sound of steel on leather didn't help her anxiety. "This way," he said, riding through a stand of trees. In a clearing looking at the river, they found the source of the noises, a boy and a girl playing knights. Their swords looked like broom handles, but they fought enthusiastically, rushing on the grass. The boy was stronger and taller, attacking ferociously. The girl, a skinny and filthy little thing, was dodging and blocking, but some of the swipes still got to her. She lunged, but the boy was ready and brought his stick down on her fingers. The girl yelped and dropped her weapon. The prince laughed. This startled the boy, who looked around with wide eyes, letting go of his own weapon. The girl stared with her aching knuckles in her mouth, and Sansa finally recognized her. "Arya!" she called out incredulously. "Go away!" Arya shouted back at them, angry tears in her eyes. "What are you doing here? Leave us alone!" Joffrey glanced from Arya to Sansa and back again. "Your sister?" She nodded, blushing. Joffrey now sized up the boy, looking at his freckled face and red hair. "And who are you, boy?" he asked in a commanding tone, despite the other boy being older than him. "Micah," the boy muttered. He recognized the prince and looked away. "My lord?" "He's the butcher's boy," Sansa said. "He's my friend," Arya said sharply. "You leave him alone." "A butcher's boy who wants to be a knight, is it?" Joffrey swung down from his mount, sword in hand. "Pick up your sword, butcher's boy," he said, his eyes bright with amusement. "Let us see how good you are." Micah stood there, frozen in fear. "Go on, pick it up. Or do you only fight little girls?" "She asked me to, my lord," Micah said. "She asked me to." A look at Arya's red face was enough for Sansa to know that the butcher's boy was telling the truth. But Joffrey didn't care. It must have been the wine, making him moody. "Are you going to pick up your sword?" Micah shook his head. "It's only a stick, my lord. It's not no sword, it's only a stick." "And you're only a butcher's boy, and no knight." Joffrey lifted Lion's tooth and laid its point on Micah's cheek below the eye, as the butcher's boy stood trembling. "That was my lady's sister you were hitting. Do you know that?" A drop of blood swelled where the tip of the sword opened the boy's skin. "Stop it!" Arya screamed. She grabbed up her fallen stick. Sansa was afraid. "Arya, you stay out of this." "I won't hurt him much," Prince Joffrey told Arya, never taking his eyes off the butcher's boy. Arya lunged at him. Sansa slid off her mount, but it was too late. Arya swung her stick. It broke with a loud crack on the back of Prince Joffrey's head. And things then followed so quickly Sansa could barely keep track. Joffrey swiveled around, cursing as Micah took off into the woods. Arya tried to hit the prince again, but this time Lion's Tooth was ready, blocking the strike and sending the stick flying. The back of Joffrey's head was covered in blood, his eyes smoldering with anger. Sansa was shrieking, "No, no, stop it! Stop it, both of you! You're spoiling it!" But no one was listening. Arya picked up a rock, hurling it at the prince. She missed him, but hit his horse, which took off after Micah. "Stop it! Don't! Stop it!" Sansa screamed. Joffrey cut towards Arya, screaming terrible words at her. The girl dodged his slash, now truly afraid, and ran to the woods with her back to a tree now. Sansa was helpless as she watched this through her tears. And then a grey blur bolted past Sansa. Nymeria. Her jaws closed on Joffrey's sword arm. The weapon fell as its master did too, with a snarling, angry direwolf snapping at him again. The prince was shrieking in pain. "Get it off!" he screamed. "Get it off!" Arya's voice cracked like a whip. "Nymeria!" The wolf obeyed right away, moving away from Joffrey to Arya's side. The boy was laying in the grass, cradling his arm. His shirt was red with blood. Arya said, "She didn't hurt you much." She grabbed the fallen sword, standing over the prince. Joffrey made a scared, whimpery sound as he looked up at her. "No," he said. "Don't hurt me. I'll tell my mother." "You leave him alone!" Sansa screamed at her sister. Arya whirled around, throwing the sword away with as much force as her scrawny body could muster. The beautiful blade spun and spun, then it hit the water with a loud splash and sunk. Joffrey groaned. Arya mounted her own horse and, followed by Nymeria, left. Once they were gone, Sansa hurried up to Joffrey. His breathing was hard, eyes closed against the pain. Sansa fell on her knees beside him. "Joffrey," she sobbed. "Oh, look what they did! Look what they did! My poor prince! Don't be afraid. I'll ride to the holdfast and bring help for you." She gently touched his forehead, brushing the golden curls away. His eyes opened and he looked at her with disgust, deep content, and nothing else. "Then go," he spit at her, "and don't touch me." And this is where Sansa I, A Game of Thrones ends. This chapter really makes clear that Joffrey is a psycho, and that Arya's dislike of Sansa is mutual. Moreover, the rubies that Arya and Micah go searching for pop up in our story a lot. For example, in a conversation between the elder brother, Brienne, and Sir Hyle, the elder tells them, "When the river meets the bay, the currents and the tides wrestle one against the other, and many strange and wondrous things are pushed towards us, to wash up on our shores. We have found silver cups and iron pots, sacks of wools and bolts of silk, rusted helms and shining swords. Aye, and rubies. That interested Sir Hyle. Rhaegar's rubies? It may be. Who can say? The battle was long leagues from here, but the river is tireless and patient. 6 have been found. We are all waiting for the 7th. Also, in A Clash of Kings, Daenerys visits the House of the Undying and has a vision where rubies flew like drops of blood from the chest of a dying prince, and he sank to his knees in the water, and with his last breath murmured a woman's name. So, these rubies do come up a lot throughout the books. Here are some of the other differences between the HBO TV show and book. In the TV series, there is no conversation between Sansa and Arya about riding in a wheelhouse. Instead, at the Trident, Sansa first appears when she meets Ilyn Payne and the Hound. In the TV series, Barristan Selmy and Renly don't appear at the Trident. Only Ilyn Payne arrives and scares Sansa. In the book, Sansa and Joffrey go riding around the Trident and they are away for a long time before they find Arya. In the TV series, they only go for a short walk and find Arya nearby. The TV series also shows what happens to Nymeria after she wounds Joffrey. In the show, it's clearly seen that Arya throws a stone at Nymeria and sends her away. In the book, Arya mentions this scene after she's brought back. The event happens after Jory finds her, and together they throw several stones at her. That's it for this chapter. Eddard III. They found her, my lord. Ned stood quickly. Our men or Lannisters? It was Jory, his steward Vayon Poole said. She's not been harmed. Thank the gods, Ned said. His men were after Arya in the last 4 days, but not alone. The Queen's men were there too. Where is she? Tell Jory to bring her here at once. I'm sorry, my lord, Poole told him. The guards on the gate were Lannister men, and they informed the Queen when Jory brought her in. She's being taken directly before the king. Damn that woman, Ned said, striding to the door. Find Sansa and bring her to the audience chamber. Her voice may be needed. He stomped down the tower's stairs furiously. He had been out with his men in the first 3 days, barely sleeping at all since Arya had been gone. In the morning, he had been so sad and tired that he could barely stand, but anger now gave him new strength. People were calling his name as he hurried across the castle yard, but he paid no attention. Was he not the king's hand, a man who must show dignity, he would have ran. He heard people muttering, wondering where he was going and what he would do. It was a small castle. Half a day on the horseback from the Trident River, the king's party moved in uninvited as the hunt for Arya and the butcher's boy was going on around the river. The lord of the house, Sir Raymond Darry, did not see them happily. He was once a loyal knight to Rhaegar, losing 3 brothers to Robert's rebellion. The tension was mounting by the hour. Darry, Lannister, Baratheon and Stark together in such a small place spelled trouble. King Robert used Sir Raymond's audience chamber these days, which is where Ned found him. The room was full as he charged in, too full for Ned's taste, who thought that alone he and Robert might settle matters much more easily. Robert was sitting in a high seat at the far end of the room, face sullen. Cersei and Prince Joffrey were standing next to him. She had her hand on Joffrey's shoulder. The boy's arm was bandaged thickly. Arya was standing in the middle of the room, alone. Arya, Ned called loudly. He hurried up to his daughter, boots thundering on the stones. She burst out sobbing when she saw him. Lord Eddard kneeled in front of her, wrapping his arms around the girl. She was trembling. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I know, he said. She felt small, just a skinny little girl. How could she cause so much trouble? Are you hurt? No. Her tears were washing clean lines in the dirt on her face. Hungry some. I ate some berries, but there was nothing else. We'll feed you soon enough, Ned promised. He rose to face the king. "What is the meaning of this?" He looked around, hoping to see a friendly face. He found barely any that weren't his own men. Sir Raymond's face was unreadable. Lord Renly had a cryptic little smile on his, whatever that meant, and Sir Barristan looked grave. Those were the good ones. The rest were openly hostile Lannisters, but at least Jaime Lannister and Sandor Clegane weren't present, still out north of the Trident searching. "Why was I not told that my daughter had been found?" Ned demanded, his voice ringing. "Why was she not brought to me at once?" Though he addressed Robert, it was his wife who answered, "How dare you speak to your king in that manner?" At that, the king stirred. "Quiet, woman." He straightened in his seat. "I am sorry, Ned. I never meant to frighten the girl. It seemed best to bring her here and get the business done with quickly." "And what business is that?" Ned asked coldly. The queen stepped forward. "You know full well, Stark. The girl of yours attacked my son. Her and her butcher's boy. That animal of hers tried to tear off his arm." "That's not true," Arya said loudly. "She just bit him a little. He was hurting Micah." "Joff told us what happened," the queen said. "You and the butcher boy beat him with clubs while you set your wolf on him." "That's not how it happened," Arya said, tears welling in her eyes. Ned put a hand on her shoulder. "Yes, it is," Prince Joffrey insisted. "They all attacked me, and she threw Lion's Tooth in the river." Ned noticed that Joffrey was avoiding looking at Arya as he spoke. "Liar!" Arya yelled. "Shut up!" the prince yelled back. "Enough!" the king roared, rising from his seat, his voice irritated. Silence fell. He glowered at Arya. "Now, child, you will tell me what happened. Tell it all and tell it true. It is a great crime to lie to a king." Then he looked at his son. "When she is done, you will have your turn. Until then, hold your tongue." Just as Arya started to talk, Ned heard the door being opened. Looking over his shoulder, he saw Vayon Poole entering with Sansa. The two waited at the back of the room while Arya was talking. Renly Baratheon burst out laughing upon hearing about the fate of Joffrey's sword. This angered Robert again. "Sir Barristan, escort my brother from the hall before he chokes." Lord Renly stifled his laughter. "My brother is too kind. I can find the door myself." He bowed to Joffrey. "Perchance later you will tell me how a 9-year-old girl the size of a wet rat managed to disarm you with a broom handle and throw your sword in the river." As the door closed behind Renly, Ned heard him say, "Lion's Tooth," and scoff once more. Prince Joffrey related a very different account of the events. Once he was finished, the king rose, looking like he would prefer to be anywhere else. "What in all the 7 hells am I supposed to make of this? He says one thing, she says another." "They were not the only ones present," Ned said. "Sansa, come here." Sansa had already told him what truly happened on the night Arya went missing. "Tell us what happened." Sansa stepped forward cautiously. She looked, as always, in blue velvets, her hair brushed to shining. She looked at Arya first, then at the prince. "I don't know," she said tearfully, looking as though she wanted to run away. "I don't remember. Everything happened so fast. I didn't see—" "You rotten!" Arya shrieked. She jumped at her sister, knocking her to the ground. "Liar, liar, liar, liar!" "Arya, stop it!" Ned shouted. Jory pulled them apart. Sansa was pale and shaking as Ned helped her up. "Are you hurt?" he asked. But she was staring at her sister silently. "The girl is as wild as that filthy animal of hers," Cersei Lannister said. "Robert, I want her punished." "7 hells," Robert swore. "Cersei, look at her. She's a child. What would you have me do? Whip her through the streets? Damn it, children fight. It's over." No lasting harm was done. The Queen was furious. "Joff will carry those scars for the rest of his life." Robert Baratheon looked at his eldest son. "So he will. Perhaps they will teach him a lesson. Ned, see that your daughter is disciplined. I will do the same with my son." "Gladly, your grace," Ned said, feeling relief. Robert was done, not so much for Cersei. "And what of the direwolf?" she called after him. "What of the beast that savaged your son?" The king looked back at her, frowning. "I'd forgotten about that damned wolf." Ned could see Arya tense in Jory's arms. Jory spoke up quickly. "We found no trace of the direwolf, your grace." Robert looked content with that. "No, so be it." The queen raised her voice. 100 golden dragons to the man who brings me its skin." "A costly pelt," Robert grumbled. "I want no part of this, woman. You can damn well buy your furs with Lannister gold." The queen regarded him icily. "I had not thought you so niggardly. The king I'd thought to wed would have laid a wolfskin across my bed before the sun went down." Robert's face darkened with anger. "That would be a fine trick without a wolf." "We have a wolf," Cersei Lannister said. She spoke quietly, but her eyes were sparkling. After a moment of silence, they all understood the implications. The king shrugged angrily. "As you will. Have Sir Ilyn see to it." "Robert, you cannot mean this," Ned protested. But the king was beyond arguments. "Enough, Ned. I will hear no more. A direwolf is a savage beast. Sooner or later, it would have turned on your girl the same way the other did on my son. Get her a dog. She'll be happier for it." Finally, Sansa understood what they were talking about too. She stepped up to her father, eyes full of fear. "He doesn't mean lady, does he?" She saw the truth on his face. "No," she said. "No, not lady. Lady didn't bite anybody. She's good." "Lady wasn't there," Arya shouted angrily. "You leave her alone." "Stop them," Sansa pleaded. "Don't let them do it. Please, please, it wasn't Lady. It was Nymeria. Arya did it. You can't. It wasn't Lady. Don't let them hurt Lady. I'll make her be good, I promise. I promise." She started to cry. Helplessly, Ned hugged her as she sobbed. He looked at his old friend across the room. "Please, Robert, for the love you bear me, for the love you bore my sister, please." Robert stared at them, then turned to his wife. "Damn you, Cersei," he said with loathing. Lord Eddard stood, gently letting go of Sansa. He felt awfully tired once again. "Do it yourself then, Robert," he said in a voice cold and sharp as steel. "At least have the courage to do it yourself." The king locked eyes with him, glanced flat, and, without anything more to say, he walked out of the room. Silence fell in his wake. "Where is the direwolf?" Cersei asked once the king was gone. Prince Joffrey was smiling beside her. "The beast is chained up outside the gatehouse, your grace," Sir Barristan Selmy answered reluctantly. "Send for Ilyn Payne." "No," Ned said. "Jory, take the girls back to their rooms and bring me ice." The words tasted bad as he spoke them. "If it must be done, I will do it." Cersei Lannister looked suspicious. "You, Stark? Is this some trick? Why would you do such a thing?" Everyone was looking at him. "She is of the North. She deserves better than a butcher." Ned left the room, eyes hot and barely able to take Sansa's screams. He found Lady where they chained her. The man sat down next to the wolf. "Lady," he said carefully, trying the name out. He never thought of the names his kids had chosen for their wolves before, but looking at this one, he had to admit, Sansa picked a good one. The prettiest of the litter Lady was, and the most trusting. She looked at him brightly as he patted her. Soon Jory showed up with his sword Ice. After, he said, "Choose 4 men and have them take the body north. Bury her at Winterfell." "All that way?" Jory said, astonished. "All that way," Ned affirmed. "The Lannister woman shall never have this skin." The day wasn't over for him yet. As he was walking to the tower to get some sleep, Sandor Clegane and his men rode into the yard. A bloody bag was hanging on his side. "No sign of your daughter, Hand," the hound rasped down. "But the day was not wholly wasted. We got her little pet." The hound pushed the bag onto the ground in front of Ned. Crouching, Ned opened the bag, already feeling heavy about what he will have to say to Arya. But it wasn't Nymeria in the bag. It was Micah, the butcher's boy, bloodied and dead. He was nearly cut in half. "You rode him down?" Ned said. Clegane's eyes were shining gleefully through his ugly dog helmet's visor. "He ran." He looked at Ned's face and laughed, "but not very fast." And this is where Eddard III, A Game of Thrones ends. However, we find out later in Eddard VII that Robert actually knows Arya told the truth. "I am sorry for your girl, Ned. Truly. About the wolf, I mean. My son was lying. I'd stake my soul on it." Then, in Davos VI, A Storm of Swords, we learn from Stannis that one told the boy, Joffrey, that she had kittens in her belly, thinking he might want one. Joffrey opened up the poor thing with a dagger to see if it were true. When he found the kittens, he brought them to show his father. Robert hit the boy so hard, I thought he'd killed him. Here are some of the differences between the HBO TV show and book. In the book, Arya is missing for 4 days. When found, she is taken before Robert. It doesn't take place at Castle Darry, but at the inn at the crossroads. Jory finds Arya in the books, not Lannister soldiers. In the book, when Sansa lies that she does not remember what happened, Arya knocks her to the ground, beating her. In the show, Renly is not present, and it's Robert who scolds Joffrey for letting a little girl disarm him. In the show, Eddard executes Lady with a dagger. In the book, he uses the greatsword Ice, and Robert initially complies to Cersei's demand that Lady to be killed in place of Nymeria. However, when Ned beseeches him to reconsider, invoking his sister Lyanna, Robert turns back towards Cersei and curses her. Ned also goes on to tell Robert to do the deed himself, but Robert walks away in shame. In the TV show, Ned protests against killing Lady, but he doesn't invoke Lyanna's name. And Robert shows no concern for Lady or Sansa before the former is killed, nor does he express any remorse later on. In the TV show, Eddard doesn't order Lady's body be taken back to the north. In the books, the Hound tosses Micah's body in front of Ned, while in the show, Sandor doesn't stop nor talk to Eddard when he brings the body. Furthermore, Lady was killed before Eddard sees Micah's body in the book. The order of the events was swapped, and in the show, Bran doesn't dream about the three-eyed crow before he wakes up in the show. Meanwhile, in Bran III, these crow dreams wake him up. In the TV series, he wakes up when Sansa's direwolf is executed. The book does not indicate any connection between Lady's death and Bran's awakening. That's it for this chapter. Bran III. Years and years he had been falling. "Fly," a voice told him, but Bran didn't know how, so he kept falling. Once Maester Luwin had made a boy of clay, burnt it until it was hard, gave it Bran's clothes and thrown it off a roof. It shattered. "But I never fall," he said, falling. The ground was far, far away, so far he could barely see it, but he sensed how fast he was falling all the same, and knew what was going to happen once he got there. Not even in a dream could someone be falling forever, and he knew that he would wake up just before hitting the ground. It's always the way it is. "And if you don't?" the voice asked. The ground got closer, though still very far away, miles and miles away, yet closer than before. Bran was cold as he fell in the darkness. No sun or stars illuminated his surroundings. There was nothing, just the ground coming up to meet him. And that whispering voice. Bran wanted to cry. Not cry, fly. "I can't fly," Bran said. "I can't. How do you know? Have you ever tried?" It was a thin voice. The boy looked around, wanting to see where it was coming from. There was a crow following him in a spiral as he fell. "Help me," he said. "I'm trying," the crow replied. "Say, got any corn?" Bran reached into his pocket. He did have corn, escaping his hand into the darkness. The crow landed on his hand and started to pick them out of the air as they fell with Bran. "Are you really a crow?" Bran asked. "Are you really falling?" the crow asked back. "It's just a dream," Bran said. "Is it?" asked the crow. "I'll wake up when I hit the ground," Bran told the bird. "You'll die when you hit the ground," the crow said. It went back to eating the corn. The boy glanced down. Below, there were snowy mountains and silvery rivers. He looked away and started to cry. "That won't do any good," the crow said. "I told you, the answer is flying, not crying. How hard can it be? I'm doing it." The crow took to the air and flapped around. "You have wings," Bran pointed out. "Maybe you do too." Bran reached over his shoulder, hoping to find feathers. "There are different kind of wings," the crow said. Bran examined his arms, his legs. He looked skinny, barely just skin and bone. Was this always the case? He wanted to remember. His brain gave him a face instead, golden and shining. "The things I do for love," it said. Bran screamed. The bird took flight again, cawing. No, not cawing, shrieking at Bran. "Forget that. You do not need it now. Put it aside. Put it aside." Then, landing on the boy's shoulder, it pecked at him, and the golden face disappeared. The boy was now falling faster than ever. Grey mist swirled around him. "What are you doing to me?" he asked the crow, tearful. "Teaching you how to fly." "I can't fly." "You're flying right now." "I'm falling." "Every flight begins with a fall," the crow said. "Look down." "I'm afraid." "Look down." Bran obeyed, and his stomach lurched. The ground was close now, and quickly getting closer. He could see the whole world below himself, a map of colors. It was so fascinating he forgot to be afraid. He saw everything, the entire kingdom and everyone in it. He watched Winterfell as birds do, the towers squat from up here, the walls merrily lines. Maester Luwin was studying the sky through a bronze tube, making notes of his findings. Robb was in the yard, looking taller and stronger, practicing with a sword. Hodor, the simple but huge stable boy, was carrying an anvil with ease. Bran saw the heart of the godswood too, the giant weirwood towering over the others in the wind. The tree looked back at him. Towards the east, he saw his mother sitting in the cabin of a galley, looking at a bloodied knife. Sir Roderick was vomiting over the rail as the rowers pulled the oars in a rhythm. They were heading towards a black storm, only they couldn't see it. Looking at the trident now, Bran saw his father talking to the king with a grave face. Sansa cried herself to sleep while Arya was watching, her face hard, her heart full of secrets. Shadows surrounded them all. One of them was dark with the face of a bloodhound. Another was armored, golden, and beautiful. A third enormous shadow loomed over them, made of rock, its visor hiding nothing but more darkness. Further, across the narrow sea, Bran saw the free cities and the Dothraki lands, and beyond, Vaes Dothrak, the Jade Sea, Asshai, and then the dragons, stirring feebly in the sunrise. At last, Bran looked north. The wall was shining, and Bran saw his half-brother Jon, sleeping, his skin pale as if it had forgotten what warmth was. Past the wall, Bran saw nothing but trees, and then dead icy fields. He looked beyond the wall of the world in the north. What he saw made him cry out. "Now you know," the crow whispered as it sat on his shoulder. "Now you know why you must live." "Why?" Bran said, not understanding. Falling. "Because winter is coming." Bran glanced at the crow and it looked back at him. It had not 2, but 3 eyes, the extra one full of terrible knowledge. Bran averted his eyes. Below, there was nothing but frozen land and ice, waiting to crush him. They looked like flying spears. He wasn't the first here. Thousands were impaled upon the peaks, bones by now. Bran was terrified. "Can a man still be brave if he's afraid?" he heard his own voice saying, small and far away, and his father's voice replied to him, "That is the only time a man can be brave." "Now, Bran," the crow urged, "choose, fly or die." Death reached out for him. Bran chose to fly. Invisible wings spread and pulled him up. The spear-like ice needles got smaller below. Bran was flying. It was even better than climbing. "I'm flying!" he cried out in delight. "I've noticed," said the three-eyed crow. It took to the air again, blinding him with its flapping wings in front of his face. The beak stabbed Bran, and he felt the pain in his dream, sharp in the middle of his forehead. "What are you doing?" he shrieked. The bird cawed at him, and Bran saw that it wasn't really a crow, but a woman with black hair. Someone from Winterfell, a servant perhaps, and then Bran realized that he was in Winterfell, laying in bed, and the woman looked at him, then dropped a bowl of water and screamed, "He's awake! He's awake! He's awake!" Bran lifted his hand to his forehead to feel the place where the crow carved at him. It was burning, but there was nothing to feel, not a wound, not even blood. Bran felt weak. As he tried to get up, his body refused to move. Something landed on his legs, but he didn't feel the weight. Yellow eyes were looking at him, yellow like the sun. Cold air filled the room through the opened window, but the wolf kept him warm. His pup, Bran thought, only he wasn't a pup anymore. As he reached out to pet him, his hand was shaking. When Robb burst into the room, panting from the running climb up the tower, he found Bran awake and the direwolf licking his face. Bran looked up and said, "His name is Summer." And this is where Bran III, A Game of Thrones ends. Now, as we've said before, we don't think the three-eyed crow is Bloodraven, and is instead the most dangerous greenseer in Westeros. For example, the three-eyed crow seems to make Bran forget that Jaime Lannister pushed him from the broken tower. A face swam up at him out of the grey mist, shining with light, golden. "The things I do for love," it said. Bran screamed. The crow took it to the air, cawing. "Not that," it shrieked at him. "Forget that. You do not need it now. Put it aside. Put it away." It landed on Bran's shoulder and pecked at him, and the shining golden face was gone. We say partially forgot because in Bran IV, A Clash of Kings, this exchange happens between Jojen and Bran. "It was only a bad dream." Jojen stood. I felt you fall. Is that what scares you? The falling." "The falling," Bran thought. "And the Golden Man, the Queen's brother. He scares me too. But mostly the falling." He did not say it though. How could he? He had not been able to tell Sir Roderick or Maester Luwin, and he could not tell the Reeds either. If he didn't talk about it, maybe he would forget. He had never wanted to remember. It might not even be a true remembering. "Do you fall every night, Bran?" Jojen asked quietly. So, the three-eyed crow wanted Bran to fall to awaken his third eye by forcing him to fly. But the three-eyed crow didn't want to spark war between the Lannisters and Starks. Not yet. Not until Theon could seize Winterfell and skin the miller's boy, allowing Bran, Jojen, Meera, and Hodor to escape north of the Wall. Also, during Bran's dream, he sees. They flew up at him like spears. He saw the bones of 1,000 other dreamers impaled upon their points, which makes you wonder if Euron saw the same thing when he was younger, or did he fail to fly and become a failed dreamer? Moreover, the three-eyed crow has an attitude or personality that doesn't gel with Bloodraven. A crow was spiraling down with him, just out of reach, following him as he fell. "Help me," he said. "I'm trying," the crow replied. "Say, got any corn?" Or later, when the crow says, "That won't do any good," the crow said, "I told you, the answer is flying, not crying. How hard can it be? I'm doing it." We can't really imagine the stoic, wizened, solemn Bloodraven saying this stuff to Bran, when you compare it to the stuff he says to Bran in the cave. "I saw your birth, and that of your lord father before you. I saw your first step, heard your first word, was part of your first dream. I was watching when you fell, and now you are come to me at last." They sound like two very different people. Also, why doesn't Bloodraven mention that he was the one talking to Bran in his dreams? And here is the biggest difference between the TV show and book. In the show, there is no mention of Bran dreaming about the three-eyed crow at all, and instead wakes up after Lady is killed. And that's the end of episode 2, The King's Road. Next up is episode 3, Lord Snow, which starts with Ned's arrival in King's Landing, but in the books, Catelyn arrives at the capital before him. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, but before you go, our book The Queen Games is coming soon. Pre-orders are open right now, and they directly support the future of the series. We've also dropped a cinematic trailer. The link is below if you want to first look at the world, the cultures, and the queens who fight to rule. And this part is important. You decide what happens next. There's a voting page linked below where you can influence the direction of all future books, alliances, betrayals, and all major decisions. Check out the links in the description, and remember to subscribe for more.